Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you for joining us for a Friday night special. Well, that feels like every show this week's been a special in some way, so you make your mind up about that. If you're listening to the show for the first time, where have you been? Of course, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Audio Boom, we're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And we are live on YouTube, and I'm delighted to be welcoming back to the Last Word on Spurs, free of our very well-known returning regular guest. Right, this is going to be fun. On my top right, and this will apply, I've got to say, for the listeners on audio, you're missing an absolute treat here, so I do apologise for this. We've got one of our greatest players to grace the Hallow Turf at White Hart Lane. We've got Gregors Raziak, in brackets, of course, Mr. Richard Cracknell. Gregors, Mr. Cracknell, how are you?
Evening, Rick. Evening, everybody, listeners and viewers. Yeah, very well. Just keeping myself chilled, little beer on the go, and just trying not to get too over emotional about it all, because it's 20 years, 21 years. How many windows? What's that? 40 windows, 30 odd windows, maybe. And is another one coming and going. So it's the clown's car on fire yet again, wheeling across the plains, and here we all are. So we'll try and make a bit of sense of all of this, Rick, over the next hour and a bit, and let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going to the bottom left of my screen, I have got, again, another player that was, I would say, again, gracing that White Hart Lane turf. You can be your judge of how you made him at the time. He runs a very successful YouTube channel, wonderful content on there all the time. We have got the brilliant Helder Postiga, a.k.a. Chris Cowlin, joining us. Helder, Chris, how you keeping?
I'm very good, Rick. Nice to join you guys this evening. Nice to be here. I just don't know what we're going to talk about, because, of course, we expected so many signings right now, but we haven't got any.
Yeah, and I must say also for Kurt, Pochettino also bottom left, but we're not doing a manager debate tonight. Otherwise, we could be in for a kind of show that we don't know where the direction of this show's even going. And I'm sure, Pete, to answer your question, there'll be plenty of analogies throughout this show, just maybe not the analogies that we wanted to hear 28 days into a transfer window. Now, also delighted to have her back on the Last Word on Spurs. Never shy of opinions, always tells it as it is. We've got the brilliant Talia Coren back on the show. Talia, lovely to have you here. How are you?
All good, Rick. All good. Thank you. Thank you for having me back on this very exciting week for a Spurs fan. Lots to talk about, lots going on. So, yeah, looking forward to talking about it with all of you and unfolding all of the gossip that isn't happening.
Yeah. I must just say also, I mean, it has been a week where, again, I know we've probably drained people so much of having different, again, journalists come on the show, different insiders about Spurs, giving us their thoughts in terms of what the window looks like for Tottenham. And I can understand that from a content perspective. I want to be rational and say that it won't be everybody's cup of tea. So, again, a massive thank you to everybody that has tuned in this week. I know it can be particularly difficult when we're 28 days into a transfer window. There's a lot of frustration out there, a lot of anger. I'm sure tonight you'll feel and you'll hear that frustration amongst many of our guests. We want to be talking about Spurs being ambitious in the market, making a statement, a club that, is going to back Antonio Conte, is going to show why they really want to be a big club. And unfortunately, we're sitting here 28 days into a window where we haven't quite done that yet. We've been hijacked twice, and we are now in talks with a player that is possibly further down the list than, quite frankly, we ever thought he would be. But again, listen, we're all here because of our love of Tottenham. We all want to see the club do well. And again, as I can only speak for myself, we all want to see the club move forward. That's the most important thing. We want to see the club do well. But again, I want to say that we echo the frustrations out there, but we mustn't lose sight of the fact that we all want to see the football club do well. There is still time remaining in the transfer window, which is why I do think it's important to try and keep some perspective. But again, we have to say we're recording in the moment where Spurs have been hijacked twice so far during this transfer window. It feels like there isn't much of a plan, of a structure. But let's get into it. You know what, Chris, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to read you out a quote from Antonio Conte that he said not too long ago. And that quote was, "In the last years, the level of Tottenham has dropped a lot. You can't make poor decisions and expect to still dine at the top table without someone more powerful ensuring you don't take anything they wanted to put on their plate. And I feel, looking at the situation now, 28 days into a window, that quote still feels relevant. I mean, give us your thoughts on the lack of incoming so far in this January transfer window.
Right, let's go back to the Pochettino days, Rick. And as I said on this channel many, many times, 518 days that we didn't spend a penny. That is now coming back to bite us. Of course, we spent 70 days trying to find a new manager when Jose Mourinho was sacked, bringing in Nuno Espirito Santo. Of course, lots has changed at the club. Some for the good, some for the bad. If I'm completely honest, I haven't expected a lot in this January transfer window. I'm expecting it all to happen in the summer. However, in the last 48 hours, when you're being, when you're so close to signing players like Adama Traore and, of course, Luis Diaz, who may add, both of them two would walk in to the starting 11 at our club. Now, when you've got opportunities like that, you use the word hijacking. I just use the words, we didn't offer the correct money. If you go into a shop, and you say, if you went into Gucci and said, I'd like these £500 jeans, and then went up to the counter and said, I'll give you 250 quid. It doesn't work like that. When you're buying high quality players, which these two are, it's all about club direction. It's all about ambition. When you've brought in a manager like Antonio Conte, you've got to back him. And when the club want Champions League football, all of us fans want Champions League football. We've seen over the last couple of years going down to Europa League, and then, of course, this season playing in the Europa Conference League. It's very, very different. But when you're bringing in a world-class manager like Conte, just won Serie A, he is a current world-class manager. Not, some people will call Jose Mourinho a has-been, and he was a world-class manager. But when you go from Pochettino to Jose Mourinho to Antonio Conte, if you cannot be successful, with these three managers, there is something seriously wrong. So if we are in a position in the next 3 days to go and sign, real quality players, and when I say quality players, I mean walking into this first, team, this first 11, because we do not need in this window players for the future. We do not need players to sit on the bench. We do not need squad players. We need players to be walking straight into that first 11 and helping Antonio Conte finish in the top 4. That is the number one priority. I've said for the last couple of years, I just want to see club direction and I want to see ambition. I want to see us going back in the right direction, i.e. getting back into the Champions League. The club showed real ambition when they appointed Antonio Conte, but now he needs help, and it must happen because I believe that we will do a lot of business in the summer, because if you're not going to back this manager, there will be the fear of him walking out, and nobody can blame him. So he's got to be backed, and I'm sure with the relationship that he's got with Fabio Paratici, I'm sure them two will work closely together. I know a lot of people are disappointed, but for me, I don't just want signings in. A lot of Spurs fans are just going mad at the moment, saying, we haven't signed any players. If we'd signed 3 players by now and they're not good enough for the first team and they're just going to sit on the bench, I'm not going to be excited. They've got to be players that are helping Conte and going straight into that first team, 100%.
Yeah, again, Chris, I say comments here, many echoing a lot of those thoughts. Let's come around to you, Rich. I know, again, you're never too shy or too scared to give your thoughts on the board and where the club are going at the moment. But for someone that, again, I know you always try and offer a reasonable perspective as well. Are you staggered by the fact we're 28 days in to a January window and there hasn't been at all one single January incoming signing? And on top of that as well, I must also caveat this and say, we're yet to move on a lot of these players that we would deem surplus to requirements. I mean, just how important is that, the fact we haven't seemed to have done that?
Yeah, that's really important, Rick, is those players out, the ones that haven't worked, the ones that are pulling at the moment a huge wage and for whatever reason haven't worked out or just don't want to be there or have sort of gone a bit stale. I think you can sort of attach those 3 statements to the 3 individuals we're talking about to get them out the door. Like Chris said, the summer is easier to do business in. January is in some respects quite difficult, but not impossible, because today we've seen Liverpool move to take Diaz because they've offered the money. Now, this is football. It's just, there's barely any emotion attached to deals or loyalties or anything. If you offer the right money, you get the player. It's as simple as that. So if Spurs wanted to hijack the Diaz deal, you just go and you say, how much do you want for him? And when they quote you a figure, you pretty much pay it. You don't sort of, if they want 55 million, you can't go in offering 30, 35. You've got to go, okay, well, I'll give you 48. You've got to be, somewhere in the ballpark to get it done. And when the player says he wants 150 grand a week, 170 grand a week, you have to pay him it. And that's the way you can hijack deals because, Spurs are in London. People from overseas want to come to London. It's one of the greatest cities in the world. You use that to your advantage to be in London. Players from all over the world want to be in the capital cities. They want to go to places like Madrid, Barcelona, Paris, and London. In world football, really, they're the sort of four big main centres. So Spurs are geographically in a fantastic position being in London. So you can attract these players to come and live because, the family, the wife and kids can go to great schools and, have great lives in these cities. So, it's doable. To get these players in is doable. But like you said, with players going out as well, you'd think to yourself, okay, and I put this on Twitter last week, and I did get a little bit of stick for it. So if you can get one or two in, even one in, that improves you, that can hit the ground running. But if you can move on Ndombele and Dele Alli and Lo Celso, 3 players that are just giving you nothing, send them out on loan ahead of a summer where you can bring in players to replace those. That would be a progressive window. But as it stands, we've not even seen them gone. That's not even happened. Even clearing the decks to bring in the new blood, that's not happened. It's just like nothing has happened, Rick. And, we're Friday night. We've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So they're either going to have to pull a real rabbit out of the hat or, we're just looking at yet another window. And, we get 2 windows a year and Conte's on an 18-month contract. So this window is important. But now, at the moment, as we sit here on Friday night, we just feel it feels like it's scattergun. So what has Paratici been doing? He's our director of football. He should have had clear targets that he wanted to land and should have known what sort of money you'd be looking at to get those in. So go out and get that business done. Now we look like it's Valentine's Day. It's 10 p.m. You're just off round to the missus' house and you're staring at those bunches of flowers on the forecourt of the Shell garage or the Esso garage, stinking of petrol, thinking, well, if I get them and a tube of like one of them Toblerones, I might just about get away with this. Because that's how it feels now. We've just put no planning into this at all. And it's panic now. It feels like panic and scattergun going back to those targets.
That were bottom of the list. That weren't the top targets. Absolutely.
There's no planning again, Rick. It just doesn't feel like there's anybody hugely in control. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Richard, the question is, though, are you going to pay the full asking price for the flowers?
But that's Enoch all over, isn't it? Even if they're banging trouble and there's one bunch left that looks like, half decent, and you think,
we'll still ask for a couple of quid off.
They don't stink of petrol too much. How much are these, mate? They're £8.50. Can I give you £4 or can I loan them off of you? And then what I'll do is I'll pay you like a case catalogue of like 27 pence over the next 800 weeks. And the bloke in the petrol station's going to go, mate, go away, please, because there's another 4 blokes in the same boat that are ready just to pay the £8.50 and get on their way and go and get some sweet, sweet love on Valentine's night. It's a mess, Rick. It's an absolute mess.
It is indeed. Poor Tal, we're waiting now with bated breath as to what's going to come out of Talia's mouth. Before we do, Nathan Evans says, at the end of the day, I understand if Conte has enough with our club, leaving needs to open his wallet. Fernandes and Diaz are key examples of our failure. Right, Tal, the show's over to you. I mean, you've heard there what the guys have said so far. You're never shy to hold back in terms of your opinions on it. I mean, what's your thoughts? It feels like we are getting to almost panic stages at the moment with Tottenham coming and closing into nearly 72 hours left of a transfer window.
Yeah.
Over to you. What do you think of it?
I mean, I think for me, and I always try and, speak for everyone else or what I think everyone's kind of thinking. And I think the bigger picture problem for me is that we are still and remain a club that lacks ambition. And I think a lot of us thought that that was potentially going to change. Getting Conte in was the start of, let's get back into Champions League. Let's not just use our stadium and our training ground to attract players. It's about, getting that manager, attracting big players and moving forward. And actually, we need players and we're still here 28 days in with pretty much no progress. And I think everyone kind of is in that place where they're just like, why would you go and get Conte if you're not going to back him? And I think, to what both the other guys have said, January is hard and it is a market that's obviously very volatile in certain ways. But like everyone said already, you can do business, maybe not the huge big money signings that everyone wants and needs, but, we are on the cusp of top 4 and we need some players. And there's no reason why we can't go and get them. I think clubs like Villa have done great business. And, they're not, Birmingham isn't as attractive as London. Arguably, I would say we are more attractive than Villa. They're getting in players, So why are we muggins over here getting harassed and sitting here with nothing? I think, that is a big problem and something that the root of the problem is still remains, right? And we all thought sinnily probably that was going to change. But I think for me personally, it's not specifically about Diaz or Traore and the failures of that. Because, I mean, let's be honest, probably most of us hadn't heard of half the names that have been flying around the last few weeks before the window even opened. It is just about, the repetitiveness at board level that we've seen before. And I think, again, in the same way that we thought it might change with Conte, we thought getting Paratici and having this data, I was going to say data on file because I'm a scientist with DOF. Oh my God.
We need some data on file while it's going in. There's a lack of data. That's a problem. Lack of filing as well. I tell you what, our filing, I want to know what's going on. The organisation of this. What I talk about structure. Where is structure? Is there any structure, Talia?
There's no structure. That's exactly it. But I think we all thought there would be a much clearer strategy between Levy and Hitchin and Paratici. And I think we're all here like, well, what the hell has changed? There's nothing that's changed. There's no obvious strategy. It seems like chaos, right? I think we've all seen a semi-parallel situation to what we saw with Nuno, with let's go for our biggest targets, let's go down the pecking order, let's go into the reserves. And that's where we feel like we are. And I think, for a club our size and our stature, that isn't really good enough. And again, obviously, other hand of that is it's not about spending, it's about spending it right. We've failed to spend right in years. Are these acrobats and other people we're linked with, are they going to be those kind of players again that are just people that do a quick job but aren't here for the long term? There's just no order to any of this. And I just think, when you're this close to top 4 and we need Champions League football, right? And I think if we just got those 1 or 2 players that would arguably improve our starting 11, we would do it. And if we don't, we're not going to do it. It's that simple. So why is Levy arguing with his pennies? We'll make that up hugely if we get back into the Champions League. We'll attract more players.
Good point.
It's the cycle, and I'm sure we'll cover it. But I think that for me is what makes no sense, because you just think you put out a little bit, you pay your extra 10 million, you're going to get leaps and bounds over that. Otherwise, we're going to have Kane wanting to leave again in the summer, Conte unhappy, blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's all very much like a clouded nothingness. And it's frustrating. And I think we're all frustrated, really.
Yep. No, I agree. And listen, I have to emphasise this point again, that the window is still open as we record right here. So, listen, there may be a Paratici masterclass. I can hear the laughter track in the background as I say this. That there may be a Paratici masterclass about to happen. But Chris, to come round to you, I mean, Talia picks up on it there. Spurs, we're so close to that top 4. You look at it with those games in hand we've got. There's a real genuine opportunity there. With just, you feel, not whole. This is what I want to make clear. This is not a window for wholesale changes. We're just saying just a couple of tweaks, a couple of players that are going to maybe make that difference, that are going to refresh that dressing room. There's players that, as we've said, need to be moved on. We haven't even done that yet. You are one of the most positive fans that I know. And I think, again, I speak for many people that watch your channel and they see how much, you go home and away every single week. You travel the depth of the country. You go across Europe. Is it almost, again, for you at the moment, looking at it, thinking, to be so close, you must also be just frustrated where we are at the moment, because it's in touching distance, isn't it?
Well, to put a positive spin on it, Antonio Conte, since he's arrived, has improved a number of players, because we would all be sitting here. If we were doing this show a couple of months ago, we would all be saying, we need to sell Eric Dyer, we need to sell Ben Davis, we need to sell Harry Winks. There'd be loads of names on that list. He has come in, he has improved players, but he does need that little bit of help. And if we can get that opportunity, in the next 3 days or so, Fabio Paratici has got to work extremely hard now to try and give Antonio Conte that little bit of help, because Conte has come out and said, it's going to be difficult in January, but we need to do something. And you can see the clear quality difference. When we played Chelsea, haven't scored a goal against them in 4 games. There is a real quality difference, but we are not that far away from finishing in the top 4. So, as Talia said, if we put the investment in January and try and get a couple of decent signings over the line, we would get that money back in the Champions League. And that's where we all want to be. When we've all been to a Champions League final, of course, the result wasn't what we wanted. But, when you taste the Champions League, you want to be in that competition all the time. When you've got a world-class manager like Conte, it has to happen. So I would be absolutely baffled and really surprised if Antonio Conte is not backed in the right way. And by me saying that, I'm not talking about this window. I'm talking about the summer, because, as I keep saying, I'm expecting a huge summer. And someone asked me the other day, when was the last time you were excited about a signing? It was back in 1994. It was Jurgen Klinsmann. We could all say Rafa van der Vaart, and we could all bring in other players as well. But when you're talking about a real world-class player at, in their prime, I'd have to go back to then. I want to see a world-class player coming in the summer. I was really excited about Diaz. But it's weird, because when we talk about spending money as well, let's look at Lo Celso and Ndombele. £100 million between them two. They have completed 90 minutes 16 times between them in their Tottenham Hotspur careers. So when we talk about spending money, and all of us Spurs fans say, Daniel Levy, the board, get the money out, spend the money. When we have spent the money, it's been on the wrong players. So, to put a little bit of balance on it, you need to look at the recruiting as well. So some of these players that we're being linked with at the moment, Amrabat, for instance, I've spoken to a number of people who watch Serie A on a regular basis. Yep. And when I asked them the question, is he any better than the likes of Harry Winks, Oliver Skipp, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, they laughed and said, no, they're not. Why are Spurs going in for a player like this? So I'm absolutely baffled on some of these so-called targets for Spurs, because, as I said earlier, any new signings must come in to the starting 11. Otherwise, there's no point having them at all. And, to put a bit of balance on it as well, if we're thinking about offloading Ndombele, Dele Alli, Lo Celso, and now even Fabrizio Romano in the last couple of hours has said about Brian Hill possibly getting out on loan. Yep. If we don't get any signings in this January transfer window that are going to start in our starting 11, we will actually finish the window with a worse squad than we started. Think about that.
And you can't imagine, Chris, just to come back to you on that and I'll let you answer this. You can't imagine if Spurs are in that position, Conte will be happy with this and want to stay here. Surely that'd just be insanity, wouldn't it? I'm not trying to be, pushing you into a corner here to say this, but it just seems pure insanity that we could be in this position.
When I look back, when he looked absolutely deflated after, the Chelsea game in the Carabao Cup first leg, he looked absolutely deflated. He looked broken, and he really looked like, this is a huge job. This is probably a bigger job than I first thought when I come here. When I look back at that, I kind of think, was he told that we're not actually going to do a great deal in January? And he's thinking, well, from now until the end of the season, it's going to be very hard. And trying to put a positive spin on it. Yes, he can, improve some of these players from now until the end of the season, but it's going to be a hard task When you want someone to do a job and you want a team to finish in the top 4, give him some help. Antonio Conte needs a little bit of help. And I'm just hoping that the next 3 days, and as you said, Rick, I'm hoping that Fabio Paratici somehow pulls a couple of aces out of his sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely. On the screen here, Jason says, if no Champions League football, then we're not able to sign players good enough to take us on to that next level. You could argue this Jan window is even more important. Rich, you just said that yourself, that, you know, this window, we shouldn't underestimate the importance of it. Conte is only on an 18-month contract. For you, where we are right now, what would be deemed acceptable for Spurs in these next 72 hours, what we've got left of the January transfer window?
It's simple, Rick. Bring in players that are box ready to go and play for us, and we've got the money. It's as simple as that. I can't believe that we haven't got the money to be able to cover these players over the next 4-5 years, because the revenue streams that we can generate with this stadium, we've been told by the chairman himself that every penny this club makes out of those events will go back in to the players. So, you know, we've got rugby lined up there, we've got concerts lined up there, boxing lined up there. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And then you've got the clubs like Barcelona that are €1 billion, €1 billion in debt, with a stadium falling around their ears, hijacking us to sign a player that we were showing an interest in. Because they're just
not just for 1 week, not just for 2 weeks.
No,
this is 3-4. This is a month. Well, before that, I mean, we even looked at him in the summer.
The money doesn't matter, Rick. Like, this is what my dad says. The money doesn't matter, because if you're 100 million in debt, you might as well be 200 million pound in debt, because at the end of the season, somebody comes along with a great big bucket full of money from TV deals and just tops you up again. So no one's coming to shut you down. No one's coming to wind you up. You can have a little go at this. And we're in such a healthy position financially. We're so stable with money behind us and the streams to be able to generate more money, more buckets of money, that there's no excuse for not giving such a great manager a couple of players that are just ready to go this window. Pay the money and get it done. You know, it's honestly, we're just all over the place. That we have spent money. That's the problem.
Yeah,
it's been spent. It's been
Badly
spent terribly. So okay, that's done. Get them out the door. If you have to take a hit on them, so be it. And then bring in players that you know are going to be a success in the Premier League. I'd be looking around other Premier League clubs, because if you offer the right money, any player is yours. It's as simple as that. And we do have the money and the pull to be able to do it. So, you know, Conte's it's a waste of time getting him in, Rick. It was just a complete waste of time if this is what we're going to do. And when we done shows from when Jose went and Nuno, I said to you, we might go and get Potter. Go and get Potter.
A project manager. Yeah.
Because, you know, it's a manager fighting to make his way up, and give him a project and give him players that are going to buy into him, and a bit of youth and something we can get behind to see them develop. What's the point of bringing Conte in? Like I've said before, it's like going out and buying a Bentley and then going, oh, I've not got the £200 a week to run this, like, you know, on tax and petrol and everything. Go out and get yourself a smart car that's going to cost you £2 a week. That, you know, it just doesn't come with signing a world-class manager like that. You have to back him. You have to give him the tools to work with. And I mean, what a job he's done so far, Rick. We're not that far.
Incredible
off the
job.
top
Look at what he's done. 6 wins, 3 draws to 1 defeat. Been incredible.
Yeah, that he's turned round, like the Leicester game. These are players that were shocking. We wanted out the door. So he's obviously got it in his locker to be able to get the best out of players. Now give him better players and get the best out of them. You're laughing. £90 million to get into the Champions League this year. Rick. That's what it pays out. It pays out
Yeah.
£90 million. And top four is up for grabs. It's more than up for grabs. You take a punt on 2 or 3 players to put you in it this season, they pay for themselves. I can't quite get my head around their business acumen at the moment. It's just like, unless it's flats and cinemas, it's just like, football, it's like a means to an end to them, isn't it? They've sort of come in, taken over a football club, and they've seen another business. I know people love an analogy. Do you know what they're like? They're like Colonel Sanders, who got himself a petrol station back in the 50s in the States and started selling a bit of fried chicken there. And all of a sudden, more people were turning up for the fried chicken than they was the petrol. So he got rid of the petrol pumps and turned it into a chicken diner. And the rest is history. And this is what Spurs are. They've bought a football club and they've gone, oh, hang on a minute. Like, we can buy this for 2 bob, that for 2 bob, this bit of land, that bit of land. We can start building flats because flats don't protest and argue and the emotions and have vested interests. So now, like, it's almost like the football's an annoyance to them. And they're like they're trying to run it into the ground. It's bizarre. But what good's that to us? We've got our lives invested in this. I've got kids named after like ex managers and that. We've put so much into this.
Just to confirm, not Nuno though. Just not Nuno.
No. I haven't got Nuno Cracknell living here. That's for sure. Oh, my oldest boy, William Nicholson Cracknell. I named him after our manager. That's how much we put into these clubs. They just don't seem to care. It's an annoyance, Rick, to them. It seems an annoyance.
How's little Jose doing?
running around. He's still shackling them, You can't. He's still putting those shackles on. let's come round to Tal. Tal, just to close this segment, are you concerned also? I mean, we are also going to touch upon this later in the show, but because of the lack of outgoing so far, does that worry you also, in addition to the lesser of the signings, but purely on the basis that we know there's players that want to leave? And if Conte has got to work with what he's got now for the rest of the season, granted, hopefully he's going to be happy here to do so, how much of a detriment will that be to the rest of the squad, having players that don't want to be there?
I think we all know that Conte is a manager that is not here for the players that don't want to be here. And I think that is where it gets dangerous, that he has no time for people in the dressing room that want to cause staleness, be toxic, be lazy. He wants to be with a group of players that want to win, that are open to his methods, that he can drill home. And if there are players in that dressing room that are preventing that, of course, that's a huge problem, especially if they're openly want to leave. Why keep players that are, arguably going to cause more problems and do good? That's not good for anyone, for players, for managers, for us as a club, fans, anyone. That's not what any of us want to be seeing at the club. And I think, so much of our business is centered around, we can't buy any new players until we ship our old ones out. With that in mind, it's crazy that we're still in this position. I think that's almost a completely separate issue or situation to getting players themselves. And I think going back to what Crackers was just on a lovely rant about, and of course I cannot compete with his analogies, but using the word ambition again, I think is so important, because all of that to me really resonates with that word, that we don't show ambition in that way. And I think that to me is what is the most frustrating thing, because if we were ambitious, we would go and do all of those things. We have the money to do that. We have 60 million. You're right. If any, we went to arguably smaller club or players, under us in a table, even like Leeds, Rafinha, if you're throwing 60 million at him, like for players like that, they would head would turn. Of course, I don't want to lose them, but if you've got the right money for a player, everyone will listen. And we don't do that. We go, our targets are stupid. And I think another thing for me with the whole ambition thing, when you compare that to Liverpool, who have obviously gone and got Diaz in a day, they've got Salah, Mane, Jota, and now having Diaz. And apparently we can't get a backup striker to Harry Kane because no one wants to be second, behind him. It's such a load of rubbish. And that to me is what constantly goes round in your head, because it makes no sense. If you're an ambitious club that wants to win, you get these players, you go out, you recruit, you pay the money, and you see the rewards of that on the football pitch. And we don't. And I think we've got so lucky with Poch overachieving with us for a long time that we all know, you know, and we were so lucky. And it's amazing that we've somehow kept one of the best strikers in the world, if not the best, etc., with Sonny, everyone else. But it's just like, you know, why not get the few pieces of the puzzle that we need? Like, there isn't an explanation. And I generally think the reason that we all sit here and talk about it and are so baffled by it is because it makes no sense. And it has to be something that is in here. Like, it just doesn't add up to me or everyone. It's bizarre.
Rick, Talia, you've got to be feeding plan B whilst plan A's working.
Yeah,
this is what Liverpool have done today.
You must have a backup plan.
To be doing it, the day after Conte came to Spurs, the board should have been meeting and going, who do we look at next after Conte goes? We've got him for 18 months. It should be in the planning.
There's not even a plan A, let alone a plan B.
That's the problem. You should always be feeding plan B and plan C whilst plan A's working. And whilst plan A's working, keep topping it up. Because now it doesn't look attractive. When you're an attractive club, when we made the Champions League final, you have to go out and then go, right, go and speak to players. We've just made a Champions League final. We just came up short. That's got to be an attraction to players, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, we're going to go again next year. And next time when we get there, we're winning it. And we want you to be part of that. Yep. If you're telling that to players, what's that saying to you? So now at the moment, it's like, well, we look like we're in a bit of trouble. Do you mind like coming here and da-da-da-da? Now you've got to start like really trying to sell the club to them. It sells itself when you're doing well like that. You know, it's easier.
I think as well, like I was reading today and I had a bit of like a debate with someone online that was, you know, we're at the moment this weird middle ground club that can't attract the best players because we don't have Champions League football. We're not winning trophies. So the elite top level players with the real prospects aren't really interested.
As we've just seen with Diaz, as we've just seen.
Always going to be a club that is better or has a better opportunity at winning or has more money than us versus, you know, the players that we're going for are players that teams lower than us can get. And like when they get them, they're, you know, going overboard. And it's like, wow, how's Villa got Coutinho? Obviously, aside from the Gerrard thing, but it's those kind of things where they're like, how are clubs like that doing it and we can't? And I think we're at this really weird level. But that goes back to money, right? Like we don't have we're in the Champions League, come play with us. We've got an amazing manager. We've got great players. We've got an amazing stadium. We've got this and that. So to make up for it and sell you the project and, you know, get you on board with all of this, you've got to pay them what they want to get there. And until that happens, we're not going to get them anyway because there will be a better offer. You know, hopefully we will get back in the top four and it will be attractive in itself in its own right, like it was. You know, players didn't need the whole, oh, I'd rather go here. It's like Spurs is amazing. I'd happily go there. Whereas now it's like I'd go there, but
I think there's always that question. Go on, Chris. Over to you.
I was going to say the thing is, Adama Traore and Luis Diaz, they both wanted to come to Spurs. And I don't believe, and I don't think that is right word to use, hijacking, because Spurs were in for both of those players. If we gave the right money that both of those clubs wanted, they would have signed both players. Both players were happy to come to our club. So Antonio Conte is a pull at Spurs. Of course he is. He's a world-class manager. Every player is going to want to come and play for him, regardless of whether we're in the Champions League or not. I think it's a real bonus that we've got a world-class manager like that here. And that's why I'm saying that we have to back him. But, you know, we could all go back to November 2019. I felt that, you know, we should never, ever in a million years have sacked Mauricio Pochettino. He said, you know, we've got a mansion. We need the furniture to put in it. And are we any further forward? We're not.
We're not. But I mean, from everything else, like, obviously that is all true. But ultimately, the whole Diaz thing, was happy to go here. But apparently he wanted Liverpool. And that, you know, was the reason altogether. Of course, money is a big part of that. But if we bid or put in our second bid like we were meant to, and it was between the two, he was going to choose Liverpool. And that's what everyone's reported. I mean, I don't have a bloody clue.
The problem is and this is the issue, is that, I mean, the thing is, you would think, and again, we don't have inside knowledge. They would have been talking. It wouldn't have been just in the last few days, I think. Again, with a transfer of that scale, Paratici would have had links to intermediaries, or, he would have known the player would have wanted to come to Tottenham. Otherwise, why'd you go into negotiations in the first place? I think, again, I know a lot of people use that word tapping up. There's still a form of speaking to the player, whether it's through an intermediary or through different channels, to gauge whether the player would want to come to the club. It's only at that point really you'd put in a bid, because otherwise you'd be wasting your time. Maybe that is our problem. Maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe we are putting in bids before we even know if the player wants to come here. I don't know, Chris.
I think they do want to come. They're happy to come to the club, but when there's that other offer that they see as better, it does turn their head. Like he wanted the Premier League, and having Tottenham come in for you is amazing. And he was like, I'm happy to go to Tottenham. But as soon as Liverpool sniffed, if you've got the two in front of you, you're going to choose Liverpool. That's what he did.
The thing is, though, Talia, at that time, Liverpool were not involved. And that's what I'm saying. Deals like this, and Aston Villa seem to be very good at this at the moment. They go for a player, they pay the money, they get the deal done without anyone knowing anything about it. And there was too much noise about Tottenham Hotspur putting that first offer in. And then before we go back with the second offer, they had come in and said, okay, what do you want? We'll pay the money, job done. It's as simple as that. So if we'd have gone in right away and said, how much money do you want? Okay, we'll pay it. That is the real difference here.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Without the list, things would be so different. How clubs do these deals and they just pop up like, oh, we've signed this person with no media, no nothing. It's just like, wow, we would never have that. We see things for weeks before it even gets there. And that, again, is part of the problem, because
absolutely,
other people do it. Why can't we do it?
No, again, I think that point, you have to look at that. You really, really do, because it's a very valid point as to how these negotiations come about. Crocodox on the screen there says, have you guys seen the news about the 8,600 empty seats per game? Again, that might be correct, that total. Again, I'm not too sure. But the revenue loss, the first team neglects affects more than just having a dusty trophy cabinet. I think, again, we've seen that report from the Daily Mail in terms of, the stadium not being in full attendance every week. It is a concern. And I think, you look at it in general, that does come down to an element of number of factors, in terms of, backing the manager, smart recruitment, making fans feel that they're part of, as you always say, Chris, club direction, part of a journey, knowing where you're going. I think for too long in the last 4 or 5 years with Tottenham, we don't seem to know where we are going. And to reflect, I know Jason just obviously put a message in there about that window just after the Champions League. That's the window that really killed us. You look at it now, we're trying to get rid of Ndombele, we're trying to get rid of Giovanni Lo Celso. Jack Clark's just gone on loan again to Sunderland. And, of course, Ryan Sessegnon, bless him. Listen, Sessegnon might become a very good player for Tottenham. I hope he does. I really like Sessegnon. This wing-back role could really work for him. But he's very injury-prone. So that window seems to have really haunted us. But we are going to go for our first break for our listeners that are on audio. For our watching audience on YouTube, nearly 1,500 of you watching us live. Thank you so much for your support. And if you only just tuned in, I just do want to say what I said at the very top of the show, that this has been a week for us that has been like no other. I know we've had continuous shows in relation to, again, different people, journalists coming on the show, insiders that are giving their views on Tottenham. We appreciate that. May not be for everybody. We understand that, again, it can be quite a draining time. And I think, again, we just wanted to see if we can offer some perspective as well. We're all in our own way, want the club to do well. Of course we do. We want to see the club be successful. We understand the windows of frustration. We have to, again, echo that point. There is still 3 to 4 days left. Spurs, again, who knows? They may have some master plan up their sleeve. But I think what we are reflecting on so far is the previous week. And again, that frustration of being in talks with players and simply not getting the deals done to appease Antonio Conte, because at the end of the day, I think we all agree, we've got one of the best managers that we've had, certainly in my history watching Tottenham. I'm 32, so I can tell you, there's been no better than Antonio so far. Pochettino, of course, was a brilliant manager. No doubt about that at all. But you just feel with Conte, he's an incredibly special character. And if you can back him, then there's no doubt Spurs can get back into that Champions League. There's absolutely no doubt. Rich, what I wanted to focus on for this next part is Fabio Paratici and the appointment and how that's worked so far at Tottenham. Because I think, to be fair, I think we all thought when he was going to come in, this was going to be the start of a different, I'd say use the word revolution at Tottenham. You're going to have a man there that was going to take away the pressures from Daniel of negotiating the deals. Daniel will be left to focus on the financials, and Fabio would be here to facilitate the deals and get those deals done that we have struggled with. Now, I will say Spurs have signed Christian Romero, and Christian Romero was a player that obviously finished the season last year for, is it Serie A's Italian Best Player of the Year. So he is a wonderful player. And listen, we're looking forward to seeing him come back from injury, performing for Tottenham and playing really well. There's no doubt, hopefully, we've got ourselves a real gem in there. But from the point of Paratici coming in, and we can't get away from this, obviously, he clearly wanted Conte. Spurs didn't go for Conte originally. We then ended up with Nuno Espirito Santo, who I think all of us felt with that appointment, even when he came in, we all wanted to give it a go. And this is the thing, this podcast, generally, we don't shout, we don't scream, we try and be rational, we try and tell it as it is and what we see from a week-to-week basis. And that's why we do love doing it. But there was that feeling around Nuno. And Chris, I know because I was watching your channel as well on many occasions. You don't give up on managers easy, Chris, with Nuno. But we all felt that in the very early stages, there was concerns about Nuno. And Talia, you was on, of course, when we had Nuno here. So we all would echo those frustrations. Are you concerned at the moment, Rich, just with Paratici's so far involvement in the club? Or do you feel it's far too early to be casting aspersions based on 6 months so far in the job?
Well, it's such an unknown, Rick. That's the problem. Is this Paratici not doing his job properly? Or is this Paratici identifying players, going to the board and saying to them, here's players that will improve us, and then getting a knockback from the board? This is something we don't know, because there's been talk, even with Hitchin, that Hitchin was identifying players that would be good enough for us. And when he goes to the board and gives them an idea of what the figures are involved to bring them in, getting knocked back. So it's, you have to go back to the plans again, a plan A player, a plan B player, and a plan C player. Now, if they are identifying players that are good enough to bring in, but the board will not pay that money, then you can't blame Hitchin and Paratici. So, I mean, this is just something we're never going to know unless they actually come out and say so. It's a real unknown. They might well be saying, go and get this player, go and get that player. And we just not landing them because the ball's turning round and saying, no, we're not spending that sort of money. I've got my suspicions who out of the two parties is guilty here, just from speaking on my Legends nights to a previous manager that identified some players and went to the board and asked for those players and got told no, there were too much money, and ended up with different players. So this was back from like in the beginnings of when Enoch was there. So I've got my deep suspicions as to what's going on. I think they are identifying players that would undoubtedly improve us, but they're just not getting the money to do it. They're being like, we've got this one at 50 million or this one at 20 million. And this one at 50 million is exactly what we want. And this one at 20 isn't so much. And they take a look at it and go and get the one at 20 million. I think that's what's going on there, Rick. I really do. So, I know we've given Hitchin some clobber and some clout over the time because of what went on the documentary. And, I think he sort of regrets the day of saying that he hates the transfer window.
I do feel sorry for him because, again, with Hitchin, I must say this point that, he's been filmed for I'm trying to remember how long that documentary was now. That was over the course of the whole 9 months now because of due to COVID. So to pick that out, that statement, I know obviously we've all laughed and joked about it. I know, Tal, it cracks us all up. But just to put that in there, and he didn't really get much more content from Hitchin. It's a brutal edit, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest about it. Whatever we think of him as a person, to put that in there, how do you recover from that?
Oh, they've done a number on him. Listen, that documentary was so well made. They even made Jose look like a nice bloke. I mean, that's how clever these TV people are. that even he came out of it and you sort of went, you know, Jose seems an all right bloke, actually.
Yeah.
Dele had a number done on him. You know, he made him look as thick as a whale meat omelette, just like, what's your favourite chocolate? And, you know, everybody got served up in one way or another in that documentary. But if you can cut through all of that, I've got my suspicions what's going on. And I think that we've got some very, very clever football people there in Paratici and Hitchin. I know I've had me digs at him as well. But I genuinely believe that they've gone to the board with the players that would improve us, and the board have turned around and gone, no, I'm not having that. No, that's too dear. Can we get away with these ones? Well, let's give it a go. And they don't work out, Rick. So I think I genuinely believe that is what is going on at the club. They will just run it on the tightest, meanest shoestring that they can and just keep doing enough just to keep it ticking over and people coming back to renew their tickets and spend a bit of money in the club shop. I think that's what they do. They just do, you know, to dare is to bare minimum, it seems to be with them. And I genuinely believe that's what's going on.
Tal, let's come over to you. I want to give a credit to this, and I've spoke to this guy only 24, 48 hours ago, the brilliant Paul O'Keefe. You don't follow Paul on Twitter. Listen, fantastic guy on Twitter to follow. His knowledge is incredible. And I just want to touch on one of Paul's tweets today that he put out and just get your thoughts on this. So Paul put Paratici in the job for 7 months, and his only job is to recruit and turn players over. Months to research the market and line deals up ready to fire. Now we're 28 days into a window and having had 6 months to prepare. It looks like a blind man throwing darts. It's not a good look for Tottenham. And this follows the club having to sack a manager he pushed after 3 months and then had their search descended into a fast. I mean, the idea of bringing in that director of football strategy was to make the process a lot clearer. But at the moment, it seems that it's left very little to be desired of. And again, it's hard to judge someone when I have to caveat this. We are still in the transfer window. The transfer window is open. There could still be an absolute masterclass in these next 2 or 3 days. And if there is, I will, I'll put my hands up and I will say, do you know what? You got it right. And I must say that because, again, I want to see the club prove us wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to be told I'm a fool. I want to be told I'm an idiot. I want to be told I'm stupid. I honestly do want to be told that. But, I mean, looking at it at the moment, in the cold light of day where we are today here, 28 days in, what's your thoughts on Fabio Paratici at the moment?
I think it is difficult to judge because I think we are so far away from what happens behind the scenes that it is difficult to comment. We can only, observe and guess almost. But, to quote that tweet, it's his only job is to recruit. If that is your job, he's been in 7 months. If he'd done all those bits of planning and had all the ideas lined up and had discussed it with the board, why are we 28 days later with no one in or out other than a few, lower players? Like that, for me, is what doesn't make sense. It's that, how have you not done anything of worth? I think is baffling to me, really. But it is difficult because we can't slag him off. And I, from what we do know, I do agree with Rich. And I do think that, Hitchin and Paratici probably are vetoed by Levy / the board a lot of the time, and that if they do identify this top player and they're on the market they'd like to pursue, it's almost like, actually no, we're shopping in Poundland and we're not going to continue shopping in Harrods. That is probably coming from him. So I think, of course, to a degree that is difficult and you can't blame him for doing that. He has to do his job, and if he is doing it behind the scenes and there's no payoff, then that's different to not doing your job at all. But I generally don't know. I just think it's difficult. But at the same time, it's like, well, he must know what Levy's like / the board's like. We don't throw money at players. That has to be knowledge that he has. He also has to be equipped with the knowledge that our squad is not good enough to compete for the top 4 and compete with City and Liverpool and Chelsea on the pitch. And that gap means you have to recruit players. So you work with what you've got. That is what a job is. He's in a job role and he knows who his bosses are, how much money he has to work with, and the playing field where that leaves. the whole point of the job is to do what you can within that role.
Yep.
If it's being stopped by Levy, fair play. Of course, you can't go above and beyond, but do not tell me there are not players out there that we can afford that will not improve us, because there are, and we've seen that elsewhere. And I think that is the biggest thing. So I'm not going to, you know, slag him off to the high heavens,
No.
but because I think it's wrong. He hasn't been here long enough, and we don't actually have evidence where he's really screwed something up. But things we're reading as well, there is also the whole, he's so in with some of the agents. And I think Paul also tweeted earlier that he called the wrong agent. If I'm not wrong, Paratici called the wrong agent for Amrabat. And I was like, are you stupid? Like,
Well, he's on that phone so much, I wouldn't be surprised.
no, he did. And I read the thread and was like, no, surely not. And someone was like, no. And he was like, yeah, X tweeted about it earlier as well. It's an actual thing. He called the wrong agent about the wrong player. Like, that makes you stupid. I'm sorry.
I mean, I will say probably Tottenham Hotspur sends you crazy to caveat, but
Ricky, I wonder if he actually phoned Adel Tarab's agent by mistake. Perhaps he was doing Wordle that morning, and he's like having a little go, and Amrabat, no, that's not right, and then he had another guess at another Wordle, and he ended up he probably phoned Adel Tarab's agent, didn't he? Perhaps he even phoned Adele. He could have phoned Adele. Yeah, she'd come in. She'd do us a job, left back.
Or what we might do is we might bring in a right wing back that does actually play that position and ask to convert them, which would be a really good one. Tim Man on the screen there says, I think the atmosphere is going to get very, very toxic in our fan base if we improve the squad to push us to get into that top four. And again, I think, listen, judging by the fan base at the moment, there is a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, of course. Twitter, I always say with Twitter, it's one of those platforms where it does, I would say, how can I put this in the most politest way? I would say, again, it almost aggravates the situation any further than what it already is. We already feel the frustration. We already are, breathing, living it. And it's the thing with social media, with, again, news channels that are 24 hours rolling. I think that also just incites it, doesn't it? Because you're living and breathing
there's
every
a
single
ton
moment.
of elements
that
feed into this feeling. Like, don't build a stadium like that, and don't bring a manager in like Conte, because that makes it even worse. It's like building the best, it's like building a Harrods with the best shop manager who's very, very good at everything, and then putting Poundland items on the shelves. Can you imagine going into Harrods, and then in there they've got like a couple of garden gnomes and knock-off cheap Rizzlers and 10 lighters for £1 and a bit of fertilizer and a bit of cheap fencing and some blankets and all the stuff that you get in Poundland. If you go in Harrods and you're paying Harrods prices, by the way, in tickets, you want to be seeing Gucci, and you want to be seeing Fendi, and you want to be seeing a bit of Off-White and that. But Balenciagas, thank you very much. I'm 50 years old. Like I'm wearing Lonsdales, and elasticated waist trousers.
You're wearing the old Lonsdale yourself, are you, Rich?
I'm just looking at the labels that my kids are wearing. I have to pay for them. I don't wear them. But that's what you want. That's what you want to see, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're going in there. Exactly. But that's another element. Not just Twitter. You've built this stadium that's fit for European champions. That's just serving that up. So that's heightened expectations even further. There's so many elements that brought everybody's expectations up, which makes the anger and the frustrations even more. And then charging them £70-80 for a ticket to go and see it. Man City, Talia but what are they? I think they're like 40-45 quid a ticket.
But the thing
you're
is,
paying half the price at Man City for probably treble the product.
But
how long's that going to last?
Strategies. Thing is, with us, we have arguably one of the most expensive season tickets in the world, and that is obviously 19 home games, let alone away games, cup games, everything else. And we're paying to see rubbish half the time and no improvements. And when you get the whole everything that gets spent in a stadium gets injected back into the club. Absolute bollocks. Like, there's no other word for it, because it's a load of rubbish. There's no way that happens. I mean, those 30 games, you make a few million in beers, for God's sake, and the food in that stadium. If we did that every bloody week, you could get a new squad.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get injected back in that. And I think that is, it goes with expectation, that you expect, you know, we're settled in, we've got the manager, we've got the stadium, we've got the money, and we get nothing back for it. Nothing. And that is so frustrating. And that's why it's toxic. And I think Twitter can get really toxic, you know, and I think everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and that's just part of social media. Things carry quickly. People just go blah, 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 blah. But I think ultimately it is just disappointing. That is what it is. And I think we all expected more from the window, expected more when Conte came in, and expected more when Paratici joined us that role. And we thought that would change. And so far, we've seen zero change in any of those elements. And that's what we're waiting for. And like you've said, Ricky, if that changes in 3 days, then we will all be like, fair enough. Like when Dorothy had a good 45 minutes, I said, fair enough.
Did you?
I didn't like it, but I said, fair enough.
I did love. Chris, I want to come over to you because I haven't asked you that question on Paratici, and I'm just keen to get your thoughts in terms of how you feel about him so far and how he is so far working in the role. If I asked you to give him, if I asked you to give him a mark so far from an A to an E, what would you give him so far?
Well, I'll come back to that one. I'll tell you what, I think a lot of people are not going to like what I'm going to say here, but I think that it's been such a mess for the last few years. I think we're going to need to give Fabio Paratici and Antonio Conte time to try and sort a lot of this mess out. But when you look at Fabio's time at the club so far, what does worry me is the fact that he brought in Nuno, he brought in Brian Hill, he brought in Emerson Royal. Of course, Nuno has gone out the door within 3 months. Brian Hill, we're now talking about him going out on loan, who we paid 20 odd million pounds for, plus Eric Lamela. Emerson Royal, we paid 20 odd million pounds for him. Of course, we're now looking to replace him. Those are the worries. However, Fabrizio Romano, when you talk to him, he said that Fabio Paratici is an absolute masterclass of a guy, a director of football, and he will transform Tottenham Hotspur, you know, certainly working with Antonio Conte. And we can't forget as well that Fabio actually brought in Antonio Conte, and apparently he's a master in free transfers, which of course Tottenham Hotspur will absolutely love. Daniel Levy wanted to bring him in before. So we do need to give him the summer. And as I go back, and as I say again, you know, the last couple of years, Pochettino days, you know, he should never have been sacked. We should have always invested. We went through that period, and I'm going to say it again, 518 days without signing. You cannot do that as a football club, regardless, even if you're Champions League winners, whatever you are, Premier League winners, you need to always refresh your squad. Every single team does it, from Premier League all the way down to League Two. You've got to invest into the squad. So with Fabio, you know, my views are mixed on him. I feel that he has done some good. I do question some of his signings, but ultimately, the one question that I want the answer to, and I'd love to have the answer from the club, is who is making the overall decision, because he is being brought in as a managing director. Now, when the club statements went out of Nuno being appointed and Antonio Conte being appointed, the quotes were from Fabio Paratici, not Daniel Levy. So is he having 100% control? Is he having to go back to Daniel Levy and the board constantly and say, is this signing okay? Or is he making that decision? Because, you know, when face-to-face meetings, and I go back to again about Luis Diaz, when that face-to-face meeting is taking place, surely a representative from Porto is saying, this is the amount of money that we need to get this deal over the line.
Yeah.
You know, if we're, you know, daddling about for a couple of days, saying,
and does he have the authority? Does he have the authority to sign off? Is the question, right, Chris? Does he have that authority?
Look, he doesn't. I run my own business. If I'm there at a table and putting my hand out and shaking the deal and saying, okay, this is what you want, job done, deal is done. You know, no Liverpool, no other clubs are coming in. No one hears about the meeting. You're face to face, you know, having a face to face meeting. Get that deal done there and then. If Fabio Paratici is having to go back to the board to try and okay everything, you know, this for me is about control. Who has got the control? And if Fabio hasn't got the control 100%, 100%. That does worry me slightly.
What's your gut on that, Chris? I'm sorry to ask you that. What's your gut? Do you think he has got the final say?
No.
No way he does. He's a scapegoat.
No way.
Scapegoat.
Well, listen,
He's
guys,
another layer
Go on,
of protection, Rick. He's another human shield.
but
He's
just
just another
Rick.
layer that's
Rich,
been
I
put
must make
in
this point.
to try and
Paratici,
protect him.
can I say, but on Paratici, this was a guy that apparently we courted for years. We've courted this guy for 5, 6, 7, 8 years before Poch's time. You know, to work this hard to get him in and then to not give him the final authority, that sounds balmy, doesn't it?
The only way that he will have 100% control, Rick, will be in the summer transfer window when he can get the free transfers in, because he will be targeting a number of free transfers. Of course, you know, Fabrizio Romano has been on my channel a number of times. He's been on your channel, including today. He raved about Fabio. He really does, and he said that
he does.
the number one top, you know, signing that we got in the summer is him. You know, Spurs will do very, very well with him, and of course, he's worked with Antonio Conte before. And when you look back at his Juventus days, Juventus have been extremely successful, and he has brought in a number of world-class signings for them. You know, free transfers. You know,
the caveat with that, Chris, is I don't know if you've seen this, so I don't want to cut you there, but I think the only thing they did say about Paratici, whilst he's been absolutely brilliant in identifying players, he has struggled to move players on. But to give him credit, he did move many on in the summer. And again, I just wonder and fear, you know, John says it here on the screen here. I will find that comment John just put up. It's now moved down. John says on the screen here, if Fabio Paratici is not in 100% control, what is the point in having him, Chris?
do you know what though? When we talk, I know we're going to probably come on to this, but when we talk about Tongion Ndombele, Dele Alli, Giovanni Lo Celso, between those three, it's being reported that you know, combined £500,000 in wages. Who, you know, what clubs are going to want to come in for those players out of form? You know, never really perform when they get a chance under whatever manager. It is going to be very difficult.
And they know we're desperate. They know we're desperate as well. Get rid of them. They know we're desperate.
Yeah. And I feel that, you know, a lot of us sometimes are expecting too much to be done in such a short time, because you've got to remember, I know we want success. We all want the same thing, as you've said 100 times. We all want trophies. We all want the best for our football club. But when these guys have come in, Conte and Fabio, you know, you've got to give them time to try and turn it around. You know, we can't just sit here, you know, slagging them all off saying, well, they haven't done this and they haven't done that. We've got to give them time, because the problems go back so far.
The common denominator, though, is Evie. It's Levy. I just combined Enoch and Levy in my head. It's Friday night, is what it is. But for me, you know, I do agree with that. You know, it is difficult to slag him off, and that's why I don't want to do that. Like, there is no grounds to be like, do you know what, he's awful, because he hasn't done anything. I mean,
I would say, Tal, I don't know if you agree with this, though, is that we thought bringing him in would mean that there would be somebody that would be more of the face of the club, that would be more talking to us about decisions that are being made on the field, or, you know, I say off the field in terms of recruitment. But to be fair, I'm trying to count on my hand. I mean, I can probably count on one hand how many interviews he's done so far. He's done the one with Nuno, obviously done his opening interview, that's 2. Oh, he did the Europa Conference League, I think, press conference when Conte was here, that's 3. I think there was a mid-window update that he gave us, that's 4. But for again, this is not on him, because again, he may not be told to do these interviews. You know, this is now, he's only had, what, 5, 6 interviews so far? I thought the whole point of bringing him in was that as fans, we're going to feel a lot more involved to understand, as you always say, Chris, the direction. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we heading? On that point, Talia, do you think, again, if we were hearing from him more to know what the plan is, to know why we might not be able to spend so much in the January window, we'd all be a bit calmer? Because if we had that warning coming into January, that, look, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I know they can't say this word for word. There's not a huge amount of money to spend. We are going to have to rely ultimately on moving players on to bring players in. I think that in a way would almost settle the fan base, and you wouldn't get this hysteria that we are having now 28 days in and we haven't done anything.
It does, but I think, you know, a lot of that is trust and relationships that you build, and fans are part of that. You know, they're the ones that are feeding your income, and they're the ones that constantly support you game in and game out. And you know, there are clubs that run very differently. And we've seen that when people have, you know, put videos out where they're open with the fans and they say things. Or even if you watch like the Leeds documentary on Amazon, like the relationship that the board and the people in charge have with their fans is so different to what we have with Levy. And I think what we kind of relate that to, especially in recent times, is often a load of rubbish, right? You know, when Poch left and constantly talking, or Jose, whatever one it was at the time, I don't remember, when he wrote that huge paragraph about how we're going to find the right candidate that has to dare to do, and, you know, this huge profile. That did not happen, and we got our 7th choice target, you know, and that is what builds up, and it's like, who is this guy? Like, everything goes back to him. He's in charge. You get gonna say data on file again. Director of football. He's not doing the main stuff. We're still getting Levy. Levy runs the shots, and that's why I think it's a scapegoat. And I think, you know, unless that changes in there, very much open. It's like, this is his role, this is my role, and that is a lot more open to us. It's going to cause problems, because it's not fair on him either. And to that point, you know, if he's really good at his job, and I hope in the summer, of course, he gets his free players and everything gets better, and, you know, he's painted out to be this amazing guy, and I'm sure he is. You know, until that happens, he's not going to get any credit. But if Levy is bossing him around and actually shutting down all of these suggestions, he's going to get bored very quickly, because what's the point of doing an impossible job? You know, there isn't that either. I think it's complicated. I think we do have to see how it pans out.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just a final one on this point, because I know, again, this has been made in the comments. I do just want to say this. Chris, did you want to come in there? I can see, Chris, you're ready to go. Did you want to say something quickly, Chris?
I just wanted to say that, you know, from the start of the season to now, of course, we've had a couple of updates from Fabio Paratici, like video updates, you know, done by the club. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I've actually spoken to the club and said that I feel that they need to communicate a lot more, you know, with the fans, and tell us, you know, on a regular basis how they're feeling about the club direction, etc., etc. The club actually come back to me and said that at some point they will be having some sort of fan forum where they will be inviting the likes of YouTubers and podcasters to come in and perhaps talk to Fabio Paratici, and even do like a short interview with him to get his thoughts on the direction of the club. But I've asked many times, you know, club members, club staff to come on my channel and openly talk about the club direction, because I mention those words all the time. Club direction. If we as fans see the club going in the right direction, then it's all putting a smile on our face. Of course, we all want trophies, we all want success, but as we've all said, you put Antonio Conte in charge, you know, you feel like you're going in the right direction. But in this window, 1 or 2 signings could make the difference.
It's all a absolutely. That's what it is. It all is. And, you know, that's what all those things so far have added up to being, we're here. And it feels like there are just a few more steps to get to that place. And at the moment, we're so stuck here that if they were just more open, or we saw, you know, a different side to them, that actually it would be better. And if those steps weren't as clear and obvious, we'd understand why that is and how we're going to get there. I think it is about being open.
Well, just to be clear again,
ENIC are like North Korea. Let's be honest, they are.
They are.
You get nothing out of them whatsoever. They've just got no interest in communicating anything out. They never have. They just don't have any of these fan forums. You know, you've had an open invite for them to come on to the show.
Always listen. The invite. Listen, I must say that the invite is always here. The door is open. If anybody wants to come on from the club, that, you know, can give us just something to show that we're going in the right direction, or just tell us. I think all we would want to know is some form of the plan. You know, what I will want to bring that back to, which I want to come back to in a second, is that under Pochettino always said what we were trying to do. We were planning for the new stadium. We were planning for the new training ground. We were building towards something. We were saying about the importance of getting Champions League football to improve the squad, to push on. It feels like ever since Poch departed, and Chris, you know, I agree with you on this. I know you love Poch, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite, because I felt at the time with Poch, and I said this as well, and I'm not ashamed to say it now, because it's his football. When time moves on, I felt Poch had reached the end at Tottenham emotionally, mentally. I think the Champions League final killed him on a personal level. I think that really, really hurt him. And then I think that would have probably been the right time for him to leave. But still, the man, for as much as he loved the club, he carried on into pre-season. It ended in a way in which I think none of us ever wanted it to end. We didn't want to see him leave the club in the fashion and the way it did. But again, that was down to not being backed sufficiently. And we've got a manager here in place right now that, this is no disrespect to Pochettino, who is of a better quality than Poch, and he's a winner. He's won wherever he's been. He's at the peak of his powers, Antonio Conte. He has come into Tottenham. He has won 6 Premier League games out of a possible 10. He has drawn the other 3. He's lost the other one against Chelsea. And you know what I love about Conte is you could see he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed to lose to Chelsea. You could see it, the look on his face, because he wants to win. He always wants to win. And I think this is why there is such a build-up of frustration that we've actually now somehow managed to entice him to come. We've managed to entice Conte to come after grovelling back to him on his knees, begging him, please, Antonio, come and take the job. And 28 days into a window, we haven't given anything to him yet. Again, I caveat and say, look, I would love to be here in 3-4 days' time and be the fool and be the idiot. And for everyone to tell me I was a mug, you're a mug, and we've made all these signings and they're going to improve the club. That's all I want. But just a final one on this point, come around to you, Rich. Just back on Paratici. I look at Christian Purslow at Aston Villa, and again, listen, not everybody loves Christian Purslow. I'm not saying that he's the true example of what a MD could be or should be. But when they sold arguably Villa, one of their greatest ever players in Jack Grealish in the modern generation, he came out and he gave almost a step-by-step planning process of when they knew Jack wanted to go, what they were going to do.
Remember it well, Rick.
To then go and replace him adequately. Now, again, many would say with Purslow that that's all you want from an MD, right? That's all you want to hear.
100%.
Rick, it was so impressive when he came out and he sat down and, he knew that he was the golden goose. Jack was the golden boy, and he was sold. And he came out and he explained the reasons behind it, and that a release clause was met, and Jack wanted to go. But then he laid out a roadmap. To quote Boris, the dear leader, of what he wanted to do, and they've seen it through. Now, you don't hear about Aston Villa fans being really upset by what's happened with Jack being sold, because he came out, he gave reasons, and then he said, we're looking now to invest into the team, across the team. And, it was very, very impressive. What do we get? We've got Daniel Levy sat down with Spurs TV, the in-house TV, and you could almost hear the interviewer reading questions that Daniel had written himself. That's how it felt, Rick. It was sat down and, God bless the lads at Tottenham TV. Everyone's got to put dinner on the table. So I'm not having a go at them.
They are lovely people.
They are. They're good guys. 99% of the people at Spurs are brilliant people. The away day staff that go and do like the stewarding, spot on. They're absolutely brilliant. There's some brilliant staff there. But, the man from Tottenham TV sat down and it's almost like, dear leader, you're a really wonderful man. Can I ask you some questions? Yes, sure you can. You have no idea these questions are coming. No, I have no idea these questions are coming. Question number 1. Honestly, it was so cynical, that interview that Spurs TV done with Daniel Levy, where everything had been rehearsed for a week to try and portray him as a great guy and getting a grilling, but he knew what he was going to be asked. And it's the insult to the intelligence that you think that he's actually been sat down by a paxman and interviewed and grilled over something. It wasn't even Frost Nixon, was it? Let's be honest. It was just, and that's what we get from them. But the moment that you come to somebody like that, like the club and Daniel Levy, and go, right, come on here one night, none of us are going to be rude to him, are we? We'd get him on and we'd ask him a sensible set of questions, but stuff that people want to hear.
Yeah,
nobody's going to sit here and go, Daniel, Like, do you know
You're
what?
right,
We all
business.
really hate you. Like,
Yeah.
you're a little bald twat and all. You know, the crap you get on social media. No one's going to do that. We'd
No.
all sit and ask him
A serious
questions.
conversation. Yeah,
A serious conversation. And then he can put across his side. Do you know what? We might learn something about the difficulties of actually bringing in players and running a club. And it might actually, is a bizarre thought. He might actually turn people's opinions on him and go, do you know what? I never realised it was that difficult. And I never realised this was a challenge. And I never realised this was a problem. And all of a sudden, when it comes to like trying to buy players and run a club, we'd go, yeah, but when he went on Last Word on Spurs, or when he went on Chris Cowlin's YouTube channel and somebody came out and explained things, it is actually quite difficult because of X, Y, and Z. So they could actually do themselves a massive, massive favour by just being a little bit open and a little bit honest.
Yeah.
But
Crackers,
no information, you just fill the vacuum and the void with like terror and fear. So, like, over to you, Enoch, over to you, Daniel, over to you, new press officer, by the way, who I've got no idea. I think he came from Bournemouth. At least the last press officer was actually quite like open and would speak to you. And, Simon was great. He would engage you and he would speak to you.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you the new bloke's name.
Yeah.
I've forgotten. I know he came in. Who is he? He's a press officer. You, Ricky, and you, Chris, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of views and followers and interactions and everything, more than the daily press. So why is he not? He should be speaking to you guys almost on a daily basis. This is what I'm saying.
I don't think they want it. Yeah. I don't.
But why not? Because the landscape's changed, Rick and Chris. Like, the old guard of the newspapers and that, they're gone. They're finished. They're on their way out. You're the future, Chris. You're the future, Rick. This is how people are interacting and getting news from their football clubs. So the new press officer, whose name I don't know, let's see if he gets in touch. He should be schmoozing you guys every day, speaking to you and telling you, and as much as he can. Nothing, not a thing, nada. And it's not right. The whole club's just off, completely off message.
Though. It's just a business. We all know that. If they cared about the club, they would do things like that. They don't care. It is a business, and that's how they choose to run it, and that's fine. And I think, part of that problem is, like in science, to say the expert patient, there's so much information out there that people can read up on that they think they're the experts. On social media, there's so much out there. Fans in general think they know everything about transfers, everything that goes on in the club. They don't. But, unless the board are open to teaching people and telling them that that's not what happens in actual reality, no one's opinions will ever change. No. And it's only down to them to do that. And if they don't, then we're left here. There's no change.
Just very quickly before I just can fit these in, Jerome on the screen says lack of vision, poor strategy and decision making for the club, consistent poor planning of transfer windows. Should all of this not be a warrant to ask for the resignation of Daniel Levy? We've got THFC Hara who comes in and says to us here that reportedly Spurs and Leon have agreed a 50-50 wage split for Gio. According to L'Equipe, only need Gio's approval. I mean, we've seen so many stories like that today, haven't we, where moves are close. And, we heard last night Ndombele was done. We heard Traore was done. We've seen Diaz has been done. So I think the moral of the story, although we've had lots of different people on our shows and likewise on Chris as well, is wait until they're holding the shirt up. I think that is very, very key. But we are going to go for our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. For our watching audience, there's still nearly 1,600 of you watching us live. Once again, thank you so much for all your support. Again, want to reiterate what I said at the very top of the show, so this message does not get lost. I appreciate that. Again, the transfer window isn't for everybody. It can be draining. It can feel really negative. Again, we're hopefully providing some form of therapy. We hope you feel it's therapy. Just to try and offer some kind of balance, some kind of opinions as to how everybody's feeling right now about the lack of business. As we've said numerously throughout the show, as I said numerously throughout the show, I want to be sitting here on the 31st of January And I know Chris as well. Chris is doing a deadline day special as well as me. We're both running at the same time. I presume Chris will want to be the same as me here. We would both love to be sitting there and having some brilliant, shiny new players that are coming in that are going to take Tottenham to the next level. That, I'm sure, is what we both want. That is what we'd love to see. And that is where we're going to turn our attention to next. As I said, we've just seen some news there. Again, coming in now from Fabrizio Romano, friend of the show, of course. Spurs are offering a loan with a buy option clause for Kulusevski that could become mandatory after certain conditions during a 6-month loan. Juventus want 40 million. It's a lot of money on a player that, again, I don't know too much about, but let's dive in quickly and sum up some of the speculation that we're hearing at the moment. Chris, we'll start with you. So the latest name on this merry-go-round, if Lee was here, he'd be saying it's the crazy train, of course, is Dejan Kulusevski. It's a player that Fabio Paratici knows very, very well, of course, at Juventus. From what we understand at the moment, he's only completed, 21 years old, made 20 Serie A appearances so far for Juventus this season, only started in half of those, completing the full 90 minutes just on 3 occasions. Just the one worrying stat for me so far is that since signing for Juve for over 30 million back in 2020, he has more yellow cards in Serie A 8 than goals 5 or assists 6.
It's Lamella.
It's Lamella.
Where does he fit in?
I must ask the
Where
question.
does he play?
So we have got this club very quickly. And again, I must caveat this point. I will support any player that comes in. They'll have my complete support. So I'm sure the same way all of us. When a player comes in, we're always going to support him. We're always going to back him no matter what. We have got this football club. Heung-min Son, Steven Bergwijn for now, I must say that. Lucas Moura. Who else? Brian Hill is still here. Okay. Is that 5 so far? Am I missing any wingers so far? Is it 5 we've got? 5 wingers at the moment? Please tell me if I'm missing a player, guys. Shout me out if I'm missing any other wingers so far. That's 5 wingers. I thought our intention was going to be, and I know Brian Hill, to caveat this, may go. I know that we were reportedly looking at what we were told was going to be a centre-back, which obviously seems to have gone quiet now. A central midfielder in the form of a creative midfielder. We'll come on to that other guy in a second, who none of us really want to talk about. We'll come on to him in a second. And a forward. Now, do you understand, Chris, the link to Dejan Kulusevski from a point of trying to take the squad to the next level?
No. And as I said earlier, players have got to come in and, walk into this starting 11. Does he do that? I'm not so sure. I don't really understand the position unless we're trying to turn him into a striker or a right wing back. And to be honest, when we talked about Luis Diaz earlier as well, where would he have fitted in if we did sign him? Whose position would he have taken? It's even though he's a great player and we'd like him at the club, I don't feel these positions are priorities. As you just said, centre-back, creative midfielder, since Christian Eriksen's left, we've missed that real Eriksen-type player. We spoke about strikers earlier. The last time we signed a striker on a permanent deal was Fernando Llorente, 2017. That is a ridiculous stat. I cannot believe it.
5 years ago. 5 years ago?
We signed Carlos Vinicius on loan last season, but of course that was only on loan. But how on earth have we gone without a striker on a permanent deal for so long? I just find it incredible. But, the players that we're being linked with at the moment, I just hope that we don't panic buy and go out and sign players just for the sake of it. Because as I keep stating and underlining, if it's not a player that is going to improve the starting 11, I just don't think it's worth it. Wait until the summer. Yes, I want signings in, but they've got to be starters. They really have. We just don't want players in for the sake of it.
Absolutely. Let's come around to you, Rich, on this point. The latest name to be linked, of course, today is Dejan Kulusevski. I must say, Damasio, who is, very reputable, got very close links to Antonio Conte. He seems to indicate that Spurs now have this relationship with Juventus where they will be the first club. And again, this is reported by Damasio. This is not, again, a given fact, but reported by Damasio that Juventus will always be the first club we turn to now if we are looking for players. And it does feel like that on the basis that we have lost out on Adama. We've lost out on Luis Diaz. And I've got to say, regardless whether you want these players or not, regardless whether you wanted those 2 players or not, we're now turning to Kulusevski. Again, many people say he might be a very good player. And listen, I hope when he comes in, he'll be fantastic. I really do. If he does sign for us, of course, I'll back him. I'll support him. But is he what we need, Rich? Is he what we need right now?
He's an if, Rick. That's the problem, because he's never played in the Premier League, which is like no other league on earth. It's unique, and unless you're an absolutely special talent, you don't know whether a player is actually going to settle in to the Premier League. And what we need right now is some proven Premier League players that are used to this league, players that know this league, players that know the speed of it, the intensity of it. That is exactly what we need. So instead of keep going back over to Juve or Serie A or Ligue 1 or La Liga, why are they not looking at somebody like Ivan Toney at Brentford? We need a striker. He looks a great, strong player to me. And he looks like he's not happy at Brentford. You know, there's been sort of problems there at the moment with him. So go and test them. Go and make a bid for him. Do you think he's going to stay at Brentford if Spurs come in for him? No way. No, there's absolutely no way. He'll come and play at Spurs all day long. So go and tempt him with a bid. Same as Brighton and Lamptey. Go and see if you can get Lamptey. He's proven in the Premier League. He improves us straight away. He's a great little player. Go and get him. Clive, how much Clive Allen in today's market with that Rob C on the screen now?
He might get a game up front the way we might be struggling if Kane gets that injury.
Incredible player. James Ward-Prowse at Southampton.
Yeah,
there's 3 players straight away at clubs where if you can get into the player and their agent and you show them the training facilities and the ground and everything, and playing under Antonio Conte as well, all 3 of those, if you can match the club's valuation on them, are coming all day long. And there's 3 players straight away that would improve us, Premier League proven, hit the ground running, and put us into that top 4. And then all 3 of those players are paid for twice over. Yeah. So, you know, we keep going out to Juve, but you bring them in, there's no guarantee that they're going to actually settle and work. Because, as I said at the start of this rant, that the Premier League is just so unique, so different, so intense, such a different type of football.
You've got to know it. You have to know it to hit that ground running. You've got to know it.
You've got to know it. Yeah. So,
especially if you're looking for players to make that impact in January, you want players that can come in, hit that ground running. This is why we can't be. This is what makes me laugh as well. We can't be buying players for the future. No, we have to be buying players for now. No. We are in a possibility where Spurs can get.
We need jam today, Rick, not jam tomorrow, and it is always jam tomorrow. Everything's jam tomorrow with this club. We've got to have something to work with now, right now, this window.
Tal, let's come over.
That's where they should have been looking.
Absolutely. Tal, let's come over to you. I mean, what's your thoughts, 30, on this links to Kulikevski? I mean, again, it's a player that. From when we've been doing these things, Chris, you know, and you do your shows as well. I mean, he's probably been a player you've probably mentioned in the past, but it's probably been in glancing, fleeting, right, rather than having actual talks on him. Talia, for you, where are you at on it?
I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know much about any of these players. You know, they're so foreign.
I'm struggling to pronounce his name, so I have to get that right if he signs. Otherwise, I will be butchered. Jesus.
100%. I don't know, and I think we've all learned our lessons in that. Any YouTube compilation can make you unbelievable. Vixen Janssen looked like the best player in the world. NG, they were all unreal, apparently. No, so I do not take any notice of anything that we see online, really, but. What I do know is, you know, we needed a right wing back, a midfield playmaker, and a striker, and then whatever left-sided centre half, which I think the summer will happen. And where are we on any of those? You know, they're the positions that we're crying out for that we need today and not tomorrow, and they're the players that we need to walk into our side to improve us. And irrespective of any of these links, they're not being filled. No, nothing's being filled, and that is a bigger problem than being who we're linked with. I think, I
Mm.
think none of us really have any say of who we're being linked with and what's going to happen. That's not down to us. But, we as fans and as people can identify our missing links. And we've just named a few players that we could go and get. Nothing's happening in real life. So, what do we do with that information? It's just frustrating. And I said I can't comment on the individual because I generally would be making up rubbish. I don't have a clue what they're like as players.
Can I ask you then, Tal, if you want to give me a comment on the next name? Maybe some of you know what's coming. So we are apparently Chris knows what's coming because he's laughing at me and he knows what I'm going to say. So he knows what's coming here. I'm going to stick with you. Rich knows. I know. Why do you all know what's coming? Sofian Amrabat. Right, okay. Acrobat. I'm wondering how many shirts are already being printed with that guy's name on. Are we going to make a killing on Sofian Amrabat in a Spurs shirt? I mean, listen, I must say again, a player that we don't know very well, but he's not getting in the Fiorentina team. To stick with you at the moment, Tal, from what I understood was when we were starting out this transfer window, we were going to be looking for a creative midfielder.
Yeah, a playmaker.
A playmaker. But then since that, I've been told that Conte likes to deploy potentially maybe 2 holding players that allow the wingers to do the damage. So again, I don't know. Listen, I who knows anymore? You know what? My brain is so fried by where we are at the moment. I don't even know I don't even know some of these names, where we're going, where we're headed. I mean, do you get it?
Yeah, I mean, he's been around longer, so I've read up a bit of the Acrobat. And I've heard very mixed opinions.
Be Spider-Man next to the way it's going here. Jesus.
Spider-Man. Well, do you know what? Acrobat.
It'll be in the cinema that we're building, Spider-Man. Don't worry about that. Let's just buy a Tango Ice Blast machine and some big screens.
With the breweries coming out. But no, with Acrobat, I've heard very different things. Firstly, on one hand, he's rubbish. He's no better than Wings. He's no better than Skip. He's no better than Højbjerg. He's very far down the list and not really a player that we should be going for. And let's be honest, it would be so underwhelming if he is that signing, and even the only one, if not maybe 2. It's so underwhelming. And do not tell me there's going to be any shirts with his name on in that bloody huge shop of ours. No one's going to buy those. So, I mean, I'm not excited about it. I doubt any of you are, and I don't think anyone really is. However, from reading the great wide world of the internet, I have come to the conclusion that apparently he would fit Conte's system quite well. And by the lovely YouTube compilations that mean so much to all of us, it does look like he plays the ball forward and has better ball possession, which is obviously something that we do.
Yeah, we have struggled on.
So I think that is obviously a positive.
Yeah.
But
we're finding them.
Flop, probably. We've had so many, and I think ultimately we want something more than that. It's underwhelming after the previous links we've had. If we end up with it, like you said, we support anyone that actually wears the shirt. We tried. Fair play. There's got to be a reason why we're looking at him, but it's underwhelming. That's it.
Chris, let's get your thoughts on this wonderful, I was going to say cartoon character. That's not fair because he's not an acrobat. He's an Amrabat. It is an Amrabat. I mean, I must get it, because the problem is if we're doing stuff for the next few days, I am going to end up saying acrobat. I'm going to.
Sorry.
Now it's in my head. This bloke's name's Sofian Acrobat. I mean, Chris, what's your thoughts on Sofian?
Well, I thought Talia has done very well in finding positive things about him. No, from everyone I've spoken to. No, from everyone I've spoken to who watches Serie A on a regular basis, they're very, very surprised by this link. But to be honest, Rick, I can't see the deal happening because I think that if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. And even Fabrizio has said in the last couple of days that Fiorentina are now talking to other clubs because they're waiting for Tottenham to get this deal done. So, perhaps this is going to be another deal. All of us might be pleased about it, but really, I question, Antonio Conte putting in his evaluations with this squad. Has he really said we need a defensive midfielder in Amrabat? Is that really his recommendation? I don't believe so. And when you're being told that he is no better than what we've got, this January transfer window, this is about opportunity. This is about improving your squad until the end of the season, until the summer. I cannot see this happening. If it does happen, I'll be very, very surprised and disappointed because, as Talia has also said, it'll be an underwhelming signing. And, in this January window, we need stars to come in and shine and be playing very well until the end of the season to try and get us that top 4 spot. But, some of these players... and we will be linked with a lot of players because, as we've been told by a lot of experts, that Fabio Paratici works on 10, 12 players in one position, and then he targets one right at the end. So Fabrizio still, he said on your show today, he still feels that business will be done, and the best person in the job is Fabio Paratici to get the jobs done. Right at the end of the window. So fingers crossed that we will get some business done. But, with this signing, it will be underwhelming.
Do you know what I'm thinking, though, Chris? I'll come around to you, certainly, Tal. I'm going to come back to Tal, then we'll go to Rich. On him, you said you don't think it may get done now because we're leaving it. I think that the reason why they're leaving it is that they're doing that deliberately because I think they announced that transfer first. I'm talking like there's 4 or 5 coming in. I'm not saying there's 4 or 5 coming in, but if they announce... What's his name again? Acrobat. If they announce Amrabat first, could you imagine that reaction to that Twitter feed? The guy's only just come into the club. Could you imagine the backlash he'd get? So I personally think that they've got him lined up maybe as an option, once we've completed maybe one that is going to appease the fans. And again, Kulikevsky, if I've again butchered that, I'm sorry. He might not appease the fans.
If I asked all 3 of you, if we get Amrabat in, is this a better signing than offloading Ndombele, offloading Dele Alli, offloading Giovanni Lo Celso? Who would you rather in the team?
Well, I mean, I would rather... Well, that's a difficult one because I would rather players in the team that I know are going to give 100%. If he does come in Amrabat and gives 100%, then it's already... We're already better off,
but
aren't
this
we?
This is a player who's had one start in Serie A all season. He's had 10 games from the bench. This is a player... This is a player that he's seen as a worse player than what we've got. So what's the point?
I'm thinking mentality coming around to you, Tal, that I'm only saying this because if we've got players that don't want to be there and they are having a negative impact in the dressing room, I would surely rather get those negative players out if it means, again, it depends if Conte wants him. Look, if Conte wants him, bring him in. If Conte wants him, bring him in. But if Conte doesn't want him, don't do this. Do not do this. What do you think, Tal?
I was just say, if you just go back 1 second, what I was going to say was, what you just said there, Chris, in that, people that you speak to are like, why the hell do we ever go for him? That's basically happened with Emerson Royal. Barcelona fans are laughing, like, why have you got this player? And, we're all like seeing some of the, I guess, negatives a bit at the moment, not as bad, but you've got so many people that watch the league being like, why the hell would you ever bid for him? And now they've used that money that we paid for him to buy Traore. Like, the loop of stuff that happens is crazy when you don't know the ins and outs of these players properly. But anyway, back to what you just said, I would agree. I think that the same thing that we keep going back to transfer window after transfer window is we need to get rid of the Deadwood. Like it or not, the Tanguys, the Lo Celsos, the Delis, they have to leave this club because they do not have a future here. And, that is toxic for the dressing room, for the wage bill and everything else. And why keep on players that have no future? That is a fundamental problem. And to me, of course, it makes sense to ship them out. However, of course, you cannot finish a transfer window in a weaker position. And I don't know enough about these players to know if they will strengthen or not. But you have to, I guess, trust to some degree that if you've got the whole pool of the market, there has to be a reason why he or they would want to sign him in place of Tanguy or someone. There has to be that. And I think to not have that makes even less sense. And I think it is very much a short-term solution that they're targeting.
It's a stopgap.
They are, loan obligation to buy. I don't care. I've got no interest in buying you for the future, but you have the role that I need in this system that's going to pass that ball forward, not go backwards. And that's better than the people that I have on the bench that are throwing their gloves around
And don't want to be here. No, that's fair.
What it is to me, because they can't get the be all and end all target. Somewhere there is that, but if they can offload the stale wood, they'd rather get in these interim players that will at least do the job. And if it works out, great. But that's not the goal. It's do a job now, short term.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Rick, I'm completely with you in the fact that it is all about what Antonio Conte wants, because all four of us can sit here and say, oh, we don't like him, we don't like him, we don't want him at our club. But if Antonio Conte believes that someone can come in and do a job for him, that is the most important thing. And it has to be that, because it doesn't matter what the Spurs fans feel or think about these players. If Conte believes that they can do a job to take us forward, that is what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Man on the screen says there, West Ham are reportedly after Rafinha. Why are we not all over this? He'll go straight into our first 11 and will instantly improve us. And again, I think it's hard to be disagreeing with that. If he is available, and that's a big if, isn't it? We don't know if he's available. Yeah, we should be all over that. He's a wonderful player. Rich, I'm just conscious I haven't come to you and asked your thoughts there on Amrabat. I'm going to tell you what, I if we do sign him, I mean, the only thing I will say is that for people that love your analogies like me, and like Chris as well as you as well, we're in for a lot of fun on a late night. I say late night Europa edition. We haven't got the late night Europa editions anymore. Late night Prem editions, late night League Cup editions, or whatever we're going to be in. Because for 6 months or so, we could be having a lot of fun. But honestly, Rich, from what you've seen of him, from what you've heard of him, is he what we need? Or do you agree with Talia that as a stopgap, maybe it is worth going there?
I think we're just buying players that have got as many letters in their name as possible, Rick, so that we can get another 12 quid
on the
shirt number. Of a shirt. I think. Listen, if we re-round 15 years, then Enoch would be all over Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink and snub Edu that went to Arsenal. Like, because Daniel Levy would look at it and he'd go, "Well, Edu's 3 letters." So, like, we're only getting 8 quid for the back of his shirt. If we buy Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink, we can add another, like, 35 quid to each shirt we can sell. Right, let's go and get him. And I think that's what it is. They've had a look and they've gone, Skip. Okay, 5 letters. Okay, Amrabat, 7 letters. Okay, so if we do, like,
7 and above, only 7 and above.
We've got another 2 letters. That's 3 quid each. And they're sat there with their calculators and they're going, go and get Amrabat. All right, we'll sell Skip and we'll get Amrabat. So eventually,
that's why Hill's gone.
Yeah, that's why Hill's gone. Exactly, 4 letters. He's gone. Eventually, we're going to have a team of players that looks like the Countdown Conundrum. That's all it's going to be.
7 letters.
7 letters. Yeah, that's what it is.
Just shaded it. Just made it.
Huge amounts of letters on the back. Yeah, that's it. That is. I would sign you, but can you add another couple of A's and like an E with an umlaut above it? That's it. Yeah, and an O with a line through it, because like instead of 4 quid a letter, we can have 8 quid a letter, and that's all they're looking to do is just buy players in with like, why don't we go after some Russian players with like those backward R's and everything, and then the club shop can just start like.
Yeah, that's why Deli's going as Mario puts it. That's why Deli's going as well.
Deli's gone. Yeah. No, listen, we're never going in for Edu, are we? Never going to happen.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I must say, as we're talking right now, Fabrizio Romano has just tweeted that Lyon and Tottenham have an agreement in place for Lo Celso on a loan deal, not in doubt as revealed today afternoon, but it's still not fully agreed on player and contract side. And also Villarreal have now approached Tottenham for Lo Celso on loan. So it sounds like Lo Celso is on his way out. So again, we'll just keep an eye on that, because as we know about Tottenham in the transfer market, it's never done until it's done. Go on, Chris.
Isn't it sad though, Rick, that the fact that we're all kind of celebrating that we're offloading Lo Celso and Ndombele,
of course,
when they've cost the club over £100 million?
I think it's 110 million combined. In what was going to, Chris, this was the window after we were at a Champions League final. This was the window to build on the strength of the squad.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And as I said, the stat earlier, 16 completed games, 90 minutes between the two of them. Being in Tottenham Hotspur shirt, it's just been such a disappointment. And recruitment does really need to be looked at, and that's why I'm just hoping that we're not signing players for the sake of it.
And Kirk says that these are just
Rick,
loans. These are only loans.
Is that Paratici and Hitchin having to buy the players that were second, third choice?
Yep.
Because their first choice is in whoever was above Ndembele. If he wasn't first choice, the club said, no, that's too much money. And Celso, was he too much money? That's the real question here. That's what we need to know. Are they identifying players that will improve us but not getting backed? Or are they just really not very good at their job and identifying players which just don't fit in? Until we know that, we can't point fingers.
No,
anywhere.
and that's very true.
That's the million-dollar question in all of this. Yeah,
absolutely. Krista on the screen there says, we do need a backup when Son, Bergwijn and Lucas are in bad form. I think Kulusevski can become a good player for us. Krista, I just hope I pronounce his name right by the time we do sign him, because at the moment it's going to be really embarrassing.
10 letters there, Rick. 10 letters.
What are they doing to me?
10 letters. Ka-ching.
You almost feel
when you go with your home shirt.
I don't know about you, Chris. When you have to do your daily transfer updates, who I must say are brilliant. When you're sitting there, right, and you have to know those names beforehand, and you think, God, another name I've got to try and get to know.
Well, do you know what? Some people I bump into at the stadium, they go, you do really well just those one takes. It's like, no, some of them are about 25 takes of trying to pronounce their name correctly. A little secret there, yeah.
Oh, my God. Cut, Desmond. Right, okay, guys. Conscious that we have got to bring this show to some form of an end in a couple of minutes. We've been going nearly 2 hours. I mean, again, and we've got incredible, listen, nearly 1,600 of you watching us live. Again, thank you so much for your support. And again, for the wonderful panel we've had on tonight, who again, there's so much love for each and every one of them for, again, what they've given us in what's been a difficult, let's be honest about it, difficult show to do under circumstances where, again, we understand there's a lot of frustration, anger amongst the fan base. And I feel like in the last 10 minutes, we may have just added to that with our thoughts on the current incoming signing. So that wasn't deliberate. I mean, again, there's still links to the likes of Frank Kessia. That one looking very unlikely as things stand. Weston McKennie, another player that Spurs have reportedly spoken to, probably one of many. Just to focus on a couple of maybe players that are outgoing, the likes of Dele Alli. I mean, there's reportedly been interest from Everton and Newcastle. You feel with Dele, this may go down to deadline day. Let's quickly go to you, Talia, on this. In terms of those outgoings, the likes of Dele, the likes of Joe Rodon potentially, how important is it? I mean, we've just spoken about the sell, so obviously on Ndombele, we have to wait and see. How important is it, Talia, that we get those players out if it's going to have, an impact on the squad, keeping them, a detrimental one, essentially?
I think it is. I think Dele is a player as well that we've gone round and round in circles and people still defend him, quite highly. And I think there is a reason that no manager has got anything out of him. We've gone through quite a lot of managers now and every single one of them has not got Dele back to form. And that, unfortunately means he's done. His time here is done. And it's also a reason why it's been tough to find a suitor for him, because other managers have seen that, if got no reaction from a Jose or a Conte or Nuno, who's going to get a reaction out of him? It's going to take a manager that is so, optimistic that they can get him back to find that suitor. And that is really difficult. That is hard. I think it does depend on the manager, but I think it's important that he gets out. And I hope he does. I think he's still young enough. And if he goes to the right club, he can find his love for football again, get back in it, and good luck to him. But unfortunately, here it hasn't worked out. He went from top to bottom, quite quickly. Other players, I don't know. Look, the ones that I think are really toxic are specifically Tanguy. I'd probably say Dele. And looks like this else is going anyway. I think the others, in an ideal world, of course, Jaffa would have gone to AC. Brian Gill hopefully will go out. Even Rodon, stuff like that. But I think, to me, the toxic couple hopefully will leave before the window ends. And if not, summer, hopefully there'll be a bigger opportunity for either more to go out on loan or to get rid of those players that we don't need anymore. It depends what happens if we actually buy people or not.
No, totally agree. Right, let's come around to you, let's go to Crackers on this. Rich, how important is it? We've mentioned some of the outgoings there. I'm going to ask Chris about this in a second as well. Obviously, we've touched upon Ndombele as things stand, and of course, Lo Celso. But Dele Alli, Joe Rodon, are those a couple of players that you'd still ideally be looking to let them go if it means getting them regular first-team football? I just, for me, this is a difficult thing. You don't want to, as Talia, and I think Chris, you said it as well, you don't want to weaken the squad anymore because he's got to have options there. I mean, whatever you think, he has got to have some options there. Like, we can't get rid of everybody. What do you think, Rich, for you?
But when they play, Rick, they're just a filled shirt, aren't they? So
and they know they're not. They know not again. It's hard. They know they're not the future either. This is a problem as well.
Well, Lo Celso offers us nothing. So if he can go on loan, go. I'd rather one of the under 23s or one of the youths come in and actually be a bit enthusiastic, because Lo Celso offers us nothing. Ndombele currently offers us nothing. And Dele offers us nothing at the moment. So get the three of them out. If it's a case of personnel coming in, I'd rather put a youngster in there, to be honest. I mean, they're a huge drain on wages and how much we paid for them, but they don't offer anything. And one or two of them, you kind of think to yourself that from stories that you hear that are coming out, but they're actually a negative impact. So they're not even just taking a wage and being there. They're actually being negative around the squad.
Yeah.
So there might be a benefit from them not being there at all. And if you don't want to play for this great club, see you later.
Absolutely.
Whoever you are.
Yeah, you've got to want to
go. Whether you're, that goes from Harry Kane and Hugo Lloris right down to everybody. If you don't want to be part of this club, then off you go. See you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Don't want you here.
Yeah.
I would back a kid coming in, making mistakes, but really, really wants to give it a go over some fabulous player that just can't be bothered. It's as simple as that. That's always the way. And if you get that sort of mentality and that ethos in the club, you've got half a chance of going somewhere.
Yeah.
But so all of them, they can all go out on loan. Dele, for whatever reason, doesn't fancy it much more. Ndombele, he just seems like a really negative impact on the squad. So off you go. And Lo Celso, apparently, from what you read in reports, which is now being reported,
not particularly like around the football club. Allegedly.
Allegedly, he's just obnoxious and not very well liked in the dressing room and amongst staff. Get him out. See you later. Don't want you here. I'd rather see a kid come in. If a kid comes in and gives away 3 goals, but it matters to him and it cares to him, I'll take that all day long. Even over a player that doesn't want to be there and wasting his talent, but gets you a winning goal.
Yeah.
Because long term, that's the future. That's what's going to give you that club and give you exactly what you want, is people feeling the club, wanting to be there, out there representing us on the terraces. So they can all go. If you don't want to be there, see you later. Goodbye.
I know, Tal, you're just going to come in there quickly. Do you want to come in there, Tal, for a second?
I was just going to say, no one's bigger than the badge. And I think all of these players are our fringe. And we've played games with all of our fringe, arguably. And they're awful. The whole team is terrible. And there's a reason why they don't get into our first team and haven't with all of these managers. So it is time to say good riddance. And I think as a fan base, we are really sentimental. We're really... keen to give players all the best chances. They did this once. They scored this goal. Nah. To move on and to win, they've got to go.
Yeah.
Get rid of them.
At some point, we have to be that word ruthless, don't we? And that's to be successful. Sometimes you have to be brutal, and it's not being cruel. It's just recognizing when that time is right. Chris, to come over to you before we look to close the show. Chris, how important is this in terms of outgoings that we do try and allow some of these players to go if they don't want to be here, and the detriment of keeping them if they are going to be here?
Well, we've seen in so many reports as well that we've got to offload players before we bring in players. So hopefully these will be done, in the next 24 hours or so, which would be good. But when I think about some of these players that we're looking to offload, I don't have many good memories of them. And as you said, I travel home and away, and I've gone to all of the away Europa League games, Europa Conference League games this season. And when I think that, under Nuno, under Antonio Conte, a number of these players have been given opportunity after opportunity, and some of them just have not delivered in a number of games. Take the Morecambe home game, the FA Cup game, for example. Ndombele walking off the way that he did, the Celso not delivering again, Dele Alli. The one I feel most upset about is Dele Alli, because of course, we do have very good, nice memories from Dele. But of course, he needs to move on. He needs a fresh challenge. But Matt Doherty, I'm surprised he's still at the club. Joe Rodon, I don't believe that any manager that has been at Spurs whilst Joe Rodon has been there, I just don't think that they trust him, and they probably don't want him at the club. So it's probably best off to offload him as well. Steven Bergwijn, if we signed Dejan Kulusevski, I believe that Steven Bergwijn will probably move on, because if Ajax put in an improved offer, I don't think that Spurs will probably want to keep him, because take away that Leicester moment and take away his debut, Steven Bergwijn's had quite a tough time at Spurs, and I can see him going back to Holland and playing for Ajax. But
would you be disappointed, Chris, on that? Would you be personally disappointed if Bergwijn? You would be, yeah.
Well, if it was me, if it was my decision, you mentioned the word ruthless. I use that word ruthless a lot and have done since Antonio Conte's come in. I would sell him. I would sell Steven Bergwijn, because I just don't think that he is offered enough. I think he's had a very tough time of it at Spurs. He's played under 4 different managers in the 2 years
crazy,
he's
isn't
been
it? So mad that. Mad.
But sometimes you need to hold your hands up and say it hasn't worked out for players. But we do need to be ruthless. We do need to offload a number of players in this window. And when we all talk about we need signings, we need this, we need this, it's really important as well to offload players in this window. Very, very important. And that's why I said, and I know a number of people won't like it, but we do need to give Conte and Fabio Paratici a little bit of time to try and sort this squad out. Outgoings is very important as well as incomings.
Yeah. We'll go to Tal. Did you want to come in? I can see you. Do you want to come in everything, Tal, before we go to Rich?
No, I was just going to say, I agree. I do think Bergwijn will stay. I think Conte has said so many good things about Bergwijn.
Every time he's been asked about him, he's spoken of him so highly, hasn't he, Bergwijn? He's never been a player that, with Tungi, he said he's a midfielder. As we met, I think with Conte, I know Alistair Gold picked up on this. That it seems to the players that he's in favour of, he does seem to say their first names. But again, you could probably discount that after Lo Celso, because I think that surprised us all when that came out that Lo Celso potentially was leaving the club. So I know, Rich, we'll come over to you, then we'll look to close it. And I've said that for the last 15, 20 minutes. It's so hard. You go on forever with this, as you know. Rich has topped up about 5 times since I've last been to him. Rich,
I've been emptied as well.
I did tell you beforehand you would be doing a rack. Remember I said to you, you said to me, "Oh, come on, get 1 or 2." I said, "You'll probably get a rack in for this." Right. Rich, quickly for you on that point. I don't even come to you. Outgoings, Bergwijn, would you keep or would you let him go?
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it? It really is.
Dave, it's such a wonderful moment. Only a fortnight ago.
Yeah.
We're all going ballistic. Chris,
Yeah.
It just makes sense, though. If you're bringing in Kulusevski, it just makes sense that Spurs would then try and offload a player to bring money in order to pay for him.
But I thought we're trying to. I hear you, Chris, on that. But I thought we're trying to strengthen the squad. But does that make us any better than what we are? Does that make us any better than what we are?
There's the crux of it, Rick. If we can bring somebody in that improves us further than him, then he has to go. Why
can't we have both? Why can't we have both?
That's the problem. No matter, even if a player's playing to the top of his game and really, really putting it in, but isn't good enough, then we have to be ruthless and let them go. Yeah, Winks has stepped up, hasn't he? The lad from Wolves, whose name I can't remember now, Talia.
Who's had 45 minutes of good football and that's it. Goodbye.
There you go. But listen, if he tears it up and Bergwijn tears it up and Winks tears it up and they're playing to the top of their game and you think to yourself, oh, come on. He's really improved. But if somebody comes along that's better, it's a ruthless, horrible, cruel, cold game. They've got to go, and we have to bring in that player that improves us.
What about that on the screen there, Rich? Bergwijn has scored more goals than Kulusevski in his last 20 games.
There you go. That's the thing. You know,
we're sitting there saying we'd have to let Bergwijn go for him.
Yeah, that's the chance you take. He may come in and not get you 2 goals in the last 30 seconds at Leicester, and then you all go, I want Bergwijn back. But that's why we all love football. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
remember, he's got to adapt to this league as well. And I'm not sitting here saying that Bergwijn's world class. But I honestly believe that again. You're right, Chris.
He's not a regular starter, though, Rick, is he?
No, he's not. He's not.
But that's why you pay Conte and Paratici millions and millions of pounds a year
to
make these calls. And you rely on their wonderful knowledge of seeing them in training and going, yeah, do you know what? He offers us more. I can see he offers us more. Otherwise, we'd all do the job for 25 grand a year, wouldn't we? We'd just go in and have a go at it, you know? Yeah. So this is the big calls that have to be made. And all roads lead back to Levy, because he has to bring in these people that have the ability to make these big calls while he's off, fitting in Tango ice blast machines into his new cinema. So, that's what he's good at. So I said on Monday, there's no point watching Jim White and Natalie Sawyer on transfer deadline day. You might as well be watching Phil Spencer and Kirsty Allsop on location. You know, news just coming in. I hear Spurs are in for a block of flats in Bermondsey. They've offered a swap deal for 2 of their semi-detached in Lordship Lane. More news as we get it. You know, that's what Monday's going to be. So let Levy run off and go and build his tower blocks. Yeah. Just sign the checks for the people that are doing the football.
You still watch us get outbidded by Kings or from Equity, one of these estate agents over here. Watch it. It's going to happen. I tell you. We won't even secure that. I tell you, I wouldn't secure it at all. Right, conscious of time, guys. For the sake of our families, I must say, we are going to wrap this up. It's been incredible. Firstly, Rich, just come over to you. I know you might have loads of gigs in the diary. Can you just tell us what's still around, Rich, for people to book? These do make great presents. If you love speaking, love seeing Rich with some of the great legends that he does have on. And you want to remember the times when, as Chris says, we win trophies. Tell us, Rich, who's in the diary?
I'm back over in February. February the 18th in just outside Cardiff. Just outside Cardiff with Chrissy Waddle. Do you know what? In fact, I'm seeing more of Chrissy Waddle for about 3 months than I'm seeing of my wife when I'm back over in the UK. So I've got nights in Worcester with Chris Waddle, in Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, and in Wales. Have a look at Mr. Cracknell. I'll put all the posters up for those. Yep. I'm doing a night with Glenn Hoddle in Stevenage at the end of April. We've got Clive and Paul Allen in Dartford. And we've also got Chris Waddle and David Howes, who's a fantastic on a night, by the way, down in Chessington. So everything else is sold out. I think Harry Redknapp's sold out over in Leatherhead, and Chrissy Waddle's sold out. Glenn Hoddle's sold out in Hereford. So, yeah, look, have a look at Mr. Cracknell and you'll see all the nights that I'm over doing. So I'll be bringing me a big coat because I'm used to the warm living here in Lanzarote, and now I'm going to be coming back to the cold. So so I'm looking forward to it. But so a few weeks. But at Mr. Cracknell on the socials, and I'll put all the posters up for the nights here, there, and everywhere.
Amazing, Talia. Go on, Rich. Go on. Sorry, yes. Go on.
I was going to say, Crackers, how much are the tickets in Stevenage for Hoddle?
£75 for the VIP ticket, so you get in an hour early and you get a bit of meet and greet and a nice big signed picture framed and a professional taken photo, and £45 for a ticket for the standard entry, but you still get to do a little bit of meet and greet during the half time and get a quick selfie with Glenn. So yeah, they're good nights. They're good fun. I like to give a bit of good value for money on them.
Oh, listen,
Will you take a tenner?
And the rest on loan.
Oh, who's doing the negotiation here? You've been part for this, Chris, again. Daniel, will you get off his leg?
Listen, Enoch, more than welcome to come along to a Legends Night and see what we do to promote the good name of Spurs. So,
you dropping the prices, Rich?
Mates rates.
Mates rates, yeah. Come along, Daniel. Have a good evening.
Let's come to you, Talia. Talia, lovely to have you back on. Always a pleasure having you on. I know we've got all of you booked in the diary for February and March coming up, so we're looking forward to having you all back on with us. It's been a great show tonight. Tal, where can we find you? Lovely having you back on the show. Where can we find you across the socials?
See, I'm just so ordinary compared to my lovely panel members. You know, I have nothing to do with football.
Listen, we're all human as well. Listen, we're all human as well. Believe me.
Here I am in my 9-to-5 scientist job, and I end up on here. So I have nothing to offer except my stunning Twitter account. Really, that's I tweet. You know, I'm here because I love football and I appreciate this platform and talking.
Listen, we love having you. You've been brilliant, and like I say, there's been lots of love for you in the comments. So it's been lovely having you. Yeah, like I say, the brilliant Talia Coren. We're looking forward to having her back with us very, very soon. Of course, always great having Talia on. Chris, coming over to you. I know you've got hopefully lots lined up, hopefully lots to tell us about. Chris, number one, where can we find the channel if no one is following it? I can't believe you wouldn't be following it. Chris, where can we find the content?
YouTube channel called Tottenham Fan Chris Cowlin. Not held at Postiga, by the way. Lots of content coming out every single day.
Depending on how this window goes.
Yeah, I only changed my name because I saw Crackers did it just to be funny. So sorry about that. But yeah, lots of content coming out on a daily basis. Whenever there's any Tottenham breaking news, is out on the channel. Lots of chats as well. So yeah, lots going on.
I must say, Chris, my only worry in the last 2 hours or so, people have gone to look for you, and they're typing in Postiga saying, "Who is this Portuguese bloke? Where is he? Where is he?"
Well,
honestly,
you know what? The January transfer window will be a success if we sign a better player than Raziak and Postiga. So, you know, watch this space. Fingers crossed.
No pressure, Amrabat Kulusevski, I tell you. Chris, very quickly, I know you've, I must mention this, you've got lots of, I think, hopefully, you've got some specials in there going on in the channel at the moment, hopefully the next day or so. Is it worth keeping an eye on it in terms of who's coming on there?
Yeah, lots of journalists coming on. Hopefully we've got Fabrizio Romano on tomorrow to hopefully get us over the line and say, here we go, and we've got a transfer coming in. So,
wouldn't that be nice?
Lots going on, Rick. So thanks for mentioning that.
Our pleasure. Like I say, keep your eyes peeled. Make sure you are checking out Chris's channel. Some really good content on there for the next few days. And I must say again, Chris, like us, running a deadline day special. Why not watch both? Listen, again, we all love Spurs. We all want to see Spurs again be successful in that final day of the window. I think it's fair to say, Chris, that's going to be it could be a draining 2 hours. It could be a celebratory 2 hours, depending on how it goes. Right? We don't know what's in store. Who knows what's in store for Spurs on deadline day? It could be therapy. It could very well be. Right. Listen, it's been incredible. I must say tonight, thank you so much for all the messages, all the super chats, all the love for everybody. Like I say, I must say again, for the guys on our panel here, they do this at the kindness of their hearts to take up so much time of Spurs. I have to thank, the brilliant Richard Cracknell, the lovely Talia Coren, and the wonderful Chris Cowlin for coming on, giving up so much of their time in what, I'll be honest with you, I think we all had a little bit maybe of reservations about recording tonight, because you don't want to, frustrate people. You don't want to cause people to be angry about what's going on. But I think we all feel the same, that we just want to see the club be successful. And we've all said about, as you keep saying, Chris, club direction, where are we going? Where are we heading? We all want Spurs to be successful. That's all we want, the blue and end all. We may disagree on certain players. We may disagree on certain chairmen, certain managers, certain things within the stadium, certain things outside the stadium. But make no doubt about it, the people you see on your screen now, all we want to do is see Spurs be successful. And in Chris's words, see the trophies. That's all we want. So I'm going to leave you with that. Yeah. And I'll say we'll be back with you guys very soon. From the wonderful Mr. Cracknell, from Talia Coren, from the wonderful Chris Cowlin. As always, guys, keep safe, keep well. Please keep faith. Please keep faith the next few days. 72 hours left. And as always, couple new Spurs.